Chapter 388. I have something to report to you. Impartial Goddess suddenly spoke. Due to the Fuxi military's large-scale movements, Marshal St. Zhongzong Yuan has left the presidential office and is currently heading to the front line. Gu Qingshan immediately became serious and asked, "Where's the president?" "The president is busy with other matters, so he hasn't had time to respond to my call." "He hasn't responded to your call? What is he busy with?" "The pre-war arrangements of the three armies." Furthermore, the president will be making a televised speech in half an hour to mobilize the entire federation. No one could believe that the two largest countries in the world are about to start a full-scale war. Countless people will die in this war. The Marshal Saint has gone to the front line. "That won't do. The president's situation isn't good. I need to go see the president right away," Gu Qingshan said. Gu Qingshan's figure moved and flew up. The shuttle picked him up in the air and headed towards the capital. This was a mountain forest in the outskirts of the capital, so it only takes a few moments to reach the presidential office. While Gu Qingshan was repairing the Chao Yin sword, Liao Xing was waiting in the room. He was smoking, waiting for Gu Qingshan to finish her work before asking her about the whole thing. But Gu Qingshan just flew away like that. Liao Xing quickly put out his cigarette, turned on his hollow brain, and contacted Gu Qingshan. "Why did you leave so quickly? You haven't finished what you wanted to say just now." "I'll explain it to you later. The situation is very urgent right now. I need to go see the president right away," Gu Qingshan said. The call ended. "Damn it." Liao Xing slapped his hollow brain and cursed. "What exactly is it?" Yi Li scowled. "I still don't know the truth of the matter. This is a form of torture for a scientist." Liao Xing breathed heavily, dejectedly. "Even if you know, what can you do?" Yi Li asked. Liao Xing stared at her, speechless. Yi Li said, "Since you already have a cultivation technique, why don't you hurry up and improve your strength? This way, you can take revenge on your own, and you don't have to trouble others for everything." "Humph!" Liao Xing slammed the door and left. Yi Li stood in place, not saying a word. The ghost of the girl came and said something to him. Yi Li looked at the girl and smiled gently. "I'm doing this for his own good. He needs a little stimulation. Otherwise, if he falls too far behind, no one will be able to help him." He had practiced the incantation given to him by Gu Qingshan, and now he could see her. The girl whispered something in his ear. "All right, you're kind-hearted. I'll go talk to him." Liao Xing took out his hollow brain. "Impartial Goddess, yes, Mr. Liao. Tell me the whole story immediately," Liao Xing asked in an unprecedentedly serious tone. "I need to ask Her Excellency Gu Qingshan first," Impartial Goddess said. After a long while, Impartial Goddess told him everything that happened recently. "So many things. Why didn't you notice it earlier?" Liao Xing angrily asked. "Mr. Liao, when humans decide to avoid all kinds of surveillance devices, even I can't do anything about it. Then you should at least tell Gu Qingshan about Tang Jun's matter." Liao Xing loudly shouted. "I can't do anything about Tang Jun's matter, why not? Powerful professionists move very quickly. Even I can't stop them. I'm only a machine. I can't control humanity's desire to commit crimes and kill," Impartial Goddess answered. "So many lives were lost. How can you be so useless?" Liao Xing shouted. The hollow brain shut down. Impartial Goddess cut off the connection. The S.W. Divine Temple Interstellar Fortress. On the large screen, all the data disappeared. A sobbing emoji appeared. While deep inside the Divine Temple, all the equipment that once belonged to the game of Eternal Champions had been destroyed one by one. No one knew how Impartial Goddess did it. The sobbing emoji quickly disappeared. After that, a few lines of text appeared on the screen. Project clearance, top secret, project insiders too, project name, high-level world laws and power suppression research, examining the project's progress, conclusion, research progress at 31%, estimated research duration, in 564 hours, project will be concluded. Due to the lack of time from now on, increase funding for this project. Liao Xing blankly stood there, breathing heavily. "You're quite brave, daring to get angry at Impartial Goddess?" Yi Li appeared in the living room and asked. Liao Xing closed his eyes and sighed dejectedly. I lost my composure. It's not her fault. She's only a machine. Just leave it to Gu Qing-shan. Yi Fei Li consoled him. That brat was already very strong before, and now he's even stronger than before. It shouldn't be a problem for him to do it. Of course he won't be a problem, but as the best scientist in the world, I can't do anything at all, Liao Xing said. As if he was remembering something, his expression was filled with indescribable sorrow. Are you okay? Yi Fei Li asked caringly. He thought for a bit, then took out a bottle of liquor and poured 2 glasses. The two of them sat down in the room. Clinked glasses. The two of them drank it all at once. Yi Fei Li refilled Liao Xing's glass and drank with him. Liao Xing's expression finally became a bit better. He said, "Thank you for the liquor. You're welcome. You're a man. You need to think for yourself more often. Don't get angry all the time." Yi Fei Li stood up and said, "Where are you going?" Liao Xing asked. "To cultivate together with my wife." Yi Fei Li continued, "Ever since I started cultivating, I've slowly discovered the mysteries of evolution, as well as a few new ways to attack. There aren't many people in this world who can beat me now." He turned to leave. Liao Xing was stunned for a bit. He suddenly put the glass down and returned to his room. Sitting cross-legged on his bed, Liao Xing flipped open the scripture book in front of him and began to seriously read it. "These things are very simple. Even if my body is weak, I'll definitely surpass you all," he muttered in a low voice. The rain still hasn't stopped. The cold raindrops were blown around by the wind. The presidential office. The lawn of the office. The president was standing on the lawn, hands clasped behind his back, silently waiting. A tall aide was holding an umbrella for him. Several Secret Service personnel were scattered around. Within the thunder and lightning, a streak of light flew in. Gu Qingshan's shuttle descended from the sky. The shuttle's door opened. Gu Qingshan came out. The president stood still and reached out his hand. The two of them held hands. "The rain is too heavy. You didn't need to come out just to wait for me," Gu Qingshan said. He was a bit emotional. The president actually used a clone as a substitute to avoid countless assassination attempts by the Nine Lords. He was really a big shot who was getting older and stronger. "I'm busy with work, so I took the chance to come out for a breather," the president said. His expression was heavy, not sure if it was because of work or because of the approaching war. The two of them walked back to the office from the lawn. The thick wooden door closed behind them, blocking out the wind and rain. Dark clouds hung low, thunder rumbled. Chapter 389. The President's Office. Gu Qingshan sat down on the sofa. The president walked around the desk, walked to his chair, leaned on the armrests on both sides of the chair, and slowly sat down. His back was straight, his lips were tight, as he squinted his eyes to observe Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan looked around and purposely asked, "Why don't I see General Zhang?" "I sent him to the front line. Fuxi is preparing to launch an invasion against us," the president replied. Gu Qingshan nodded. "There's something I want to tell you in advance," Gu Qingshan said. He looked around. There were a lot of people here, but the president didn't dismiss his aides this time. Noticing Gu Qingshan's gaze, the president casually waved his hand. "It's fine. These are all veterans that have followed me for many years." Gu Qingshan stayed silent for a bit, then said, "Very well." At this point, a tall aide came forward and politely asked, "Coffee or tea?" "No need," Gu Qingshan replied. "It's fine," the tall aide smiled. "There's always time to make a cup of tea." Then tea it is. Gu Qingshan looked down and said, "Very well." The tall aide immediately went to brew a pot of tea and brought it in. The tea was very hot, so he bent down and slowly poured 2 cups. One was placed on the president's desk. The other was placed on a coffee table in front of Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan stared at the patterns on the tea set and commented, "This tea set is quite nice." The tall aide smiled apologetically to his colleagues and half-jokingly said, "Unfortunately, there are only 2 cups in this tea set. Only the president and Gu Qingshan can share it. No one else has a share. Please believe in my fairness." Saying so, he retreated back to his aides. The other aides didn't mind this. After all, one was the host and one was the guest. Having tea on hand was basic etiquette. It didn't matter if they had it or not. On the other hand, seeing the tall aide do everything so diligently made everyone feel good. They just smiled and said nothing. Gu Shan picked up the teacup and dabbed at her lips. The president also picked up his tea and sniffed it. He frowned and put the tea back. Gu Shan looked at the president and said slowly, "I'm here to report the situation." "Speak," the president said. Gu Shan put down her tea and spoke with a serious tone. "For countless years, the powerful professionists who died will return together with the frozen hell. They will treat the world like demons. They eat human flesh and drink human blood. They don't even let go of souls. Mr. President, you can contact Impartial Goddess for the exact situation. She will report to you the current state of the ice formation on the surface through statistics." As he spoke, the optical computer in his chest kept flashing, alerting him of new information. The AI continued to shine. Gu Shan could only say, "Please forgive me. I have a message. Suit yourself." The president frowned, as if he was thinking about Gu Shan's words. Gu Shan took out her hollow brain and glanced at it. A line of text appeared on the hollow brain screen. "Jang Young-ho told me to tell you. He's used underground forces to investigate, while Empress has mobilized all forces on the surface to search. But the Fuxi Empire still hasn't found His Majesty the Emperor." The message came from Impartial Goddess. Reading the text on the screen, Gu Shan picked up her tea and took a sip. He tapped on the hollow brain and issued a few commands. "All right, sorry about that," Gu Shan smiled and said. The president asked, "Do you have any proof for what you said?" Gu Shan answered, "I do. You can ask Impartial Goddess about the relevant details." The president nodded, then asked, "This frozen hell you mentioned, when will it fully appear?" "It will probably erupt as soon as the rain stops," Gu Shan answered. The president leaned forward and asked seriously, "Then, how did you know about this?" "I have my own channels." "Your channels? Can you tell me?" "I'm sorry, I can only tell you the news," the president muses. "I remember you were the one who first found out about the man-eater fiends and man-killer fiends. That's right. That day you were at the casino. You and Jang Young-ho were at the casino, participating in the underground gambling." Gu Shan put her cup back on the table and smiled. "You investigated me." The president looked at her and spoke with deep meaning. "Because you're too similar to a prophet and you're a scientist. Do you know what that means?" "What does it mean?" "To be frank, who could easily create such a thing?" "So the man-eater fiend and man-killer fiend virus were actually your handiwork," the president said. He clapped his hands. "I heard you're also a professionist, but I think that should be enough." Two middle-aged men in military uniform came into the guest room. "See Emperor Li Dong Yuan, Interstellar Fleet Commander Song Tianwu. Two of the three strongest people in the Federation were here." The president spoke. "We have first-rate lie detectors as well as first-rate information gathering methods. If you're innocent, I'll let you go and apologize to you," Gu Shan asked. "And if it's true?" The president spoke. "Hand over all your research results and work for me from now on. I can guarantee your life." Gu Shan sighed and asked, "Can you give me a bit more time to consider?" The president looked at his watch and stood up. "I'm about to make a national speech. It'll take about 20 minutes after I'm done. I hope you'll be able to consider it carefully." The president left the reception room and walked out. His aides hurriedly followed. The two generals came up, one on the left and one on the right, standing in front of Gu Shan. See Emperor Li Dong Yuan spoke. "You're a scientist. For the sake of your dignity and dignity, I hope you won't act rashly." Gu Shan didn't move. The general's hollow brains suddenly lit up. Impartial Goddess' solemn voice came. "Her Excellency Gu Shan is the great envoy who pushed humanity's civilization forward, the first in the Federation's order, the highest leader. Through Impartial Goddess investigation, the man-eater fiend and man-killer fiend viruses were not developed by Her Excellency Gu Shan. Her Excellency Gu Shan should not be interrogated or detained in any way." Halfway there, the president suddenly stopped. He coldly asked, "Impartial Goddess, I want to know, does this scientist have the same authority as I do?" He started to exude an aura. "Killing intent," Impartial Goddess replied. "That is not the case. All of the Federation's decisions and national affairs are handled by the president himself. Her Excellency Gu Shan holds the highest honor." The president's expression loosened a bit, muttering, She can reach this point with just her scientific contributions? How interesting. He turned around and quickly left. The two generals exchanged looks. Both of them had a strange expression on their faces. Li Dongyuan evaluated Gu Qingshan and spoke. If she's a top-level scientist, she should be of some use, Song Tianwu replied. Not much use saying so. The two of them went silent without saying anything else. A few moments later, Gu Qingshan asked, Did the president go to give a nationally televised speech? That's right, Song Tianwu replied. Gu Qingshan slowly took out her hollow brain. The two generals looked at her. I can at least watch the president's televised speech, Gu Qingshan smiled. The two generals exchanged looks and nodded. Gu Qingshan turned on the screen. The president had already started his speech. All citizens of the Federation should have the right to know about this. That's right, the 9 Lord aristocrats have been trying to assassinate me a total of 31 times in the last few years as a president. I have reached the point where I have nowhere else to go. This is the deepest insult to the Federation's laws. That's right, I have all the evidence of the assassination attempts. Next, I'll show you the crimes of the 9 Lords. The scene changed. The cause and effect of each assassination. The conversation between the 9 Lords aristocrats. The assassins' arrangements. The anger of failure. Another round of planning and discussion. All the evidence of the assassination attempts appeared on the screen. And right now, it was being broadcasted live. What are you doing, sir? This isn't the same as the script I wrote, one of the aides exclaimed in shock. The rest of the aides were also stunned. Gu Qingshan's eyes became cold as she looked at the screen. When the Fuxi Empire's army arrived, the president chose to reveal the truth. But the evidence was irrefutable. Just like that, a shocking conspiracy was exposed in the light of day. The current president has the highest support rate in history, deeply loved by the public. When the public finds out about this truth, the entire Federation will fall into a state of shock. The aristocrats will no longer be able to blame foreign forces for the president's assassination to divert the public's attention. All of this will be the truth of their crimes. What will come next will be the entire Freedom Federation's accusation against the 9 Lords. The enmity between the Federation's citizens and the aristocrats will reach the highest point in the Federation's history. Without a doubt, the Federation will fall into internal strife, or even civil war. Gu Qingshan's heart was already hanging by a thread. After 6 to 7 minutes, all the evidence was finally shown. The president once again appeared on the screen. The 9 Lords aristocrats are rotten to the core. They can no longer lead this country forward. They've dragged down the entire country. A few of our generals have already joined the resistance. The army is with me. Freedom is with me. You are with me. Now, I call on everyone to follow me. Take up arms and resist the 9 Lords' cruel rule. The president looked at the screen and loudly declared, I declare the Freedom Federation's glorious revolution has begun. The screen stopped. Glorious revolution? As Gu Qingshan read it aloud, her face was filled with seriousness like never before. The Fuxi Empire is about to invade. The frozen hell is about to appear in the human realm. At such a critical moment, the president exposed the 9 Lords' actions to the public. The Federation is about to fall into chaos from this moment on. I thought it would be a pre-war mobilization. Who knew it would be like this? It seems the Federation is about to fall in a civil war, Gu Qingshan sighed. Put your hollow brain away, Song Tianqing said. Gu Qingshan put the hollow brain away. A few moments later, the president returned. Are you ready? He asked. Yes, Song Tianqing answered. Detonate it, the president ordered. Yes, in space. The S.W. Divine Temple Interstellar Fortress. A small black box about the size of a fingernail suddenly appeared in the space that Impartial Goddess had previously isolated. A nano-disintegration bomb. When the space engineers were maintaining the S.W. Divine Temple, a Marine captain secretly planted a nano-disintegration bomb inside. It can quickly destroy the S.W. Divine Temple's energy pool and paralyze Impartial Goddess energy supply system. Up until now, this nano-disintegration bomb had remained silent. But now it's suddenly activated. Bam! The nano-disintegration bomb let out a clear, cracking sound, then quickly scattered into white mist. This white mist was an uncountable number of nano-disintegration robots. As soon as they're activated, they'll immediately go to work and destroy everything around them. Unfortunately, this place has already been isolated from the outside world, as well as covered in special materials that can defend against nanobombs. The nano-disintegration bomb didn't do anything, but all signals on the S.W. Divine Temple were cut off. The entire interstellar fortress fell into darkness. Space, extremely far away from the S.W. Divine Temple. An inconspicuous meteorite. Suddenly, it flipped over layer by layer and assembled into a miniature surveillance satellite. The surveillance satellite was monitoring the S.W. Divine Temple's interstellar fortress for a series of signal detection and monitoring. Finally, it came to a conclusion. Its conclusion quickly passed through space, entered the atmosphere, fell into the Freedom Federation's hollow brain, and began to beep in the presidential palace's hollow brain. Success! Impartial Goddess is paralyzed. The two generals excitedly exclaimed. The president's cold expression finally showed a bit of warmth. According to the plan, being able to reach this point is already a perfect ending. Without impartial goddess interference, the operation against the Nine Lords can proceed smoothly. As the highest leader of humanity, he knows that the Nine Lords can deal with the space monsters. But if hell were to descend, and the world is filled with undying people, who would be afraid of the monsters? The moment they've been waiting for is finally here. Very well, mobilize your people. Immediately mobilize the military and prepare to attack the Nine Lords the President ordered. Yes. The two generals saluted, turned around, and hurriedly left. Gu Qingshan didn't say a single word during the entire time. The president looked at him, then slowly sat down across from him. Even when he was sitting on the sofa, his back was straight, his shoulders were level, his eyes were focused, his every movement was flawless. There was not the slightest expression on his face. He was like a cold mountain. The president turned on his hollow brain, preparing something. After a while, he finally asked, "Have you thought it through? Pledge your allegiance to me, and you'll receive an unprecedented opportunity. What if I don't pledge my allegiance?" Gu Qingshan asked. "A scientist who's willing to become a servant of the Nine Lords, the Federation doesn't need you." The president's gaze lightly glanced at Gu Qingshan, his mouth unconsciously forming a thin line. "I've thought it through, but I have a question that I need to ask you first," Gu Qingshan said. "You still dare to ask for conditions?" The president's eyes became a bit colder as a dignified aura appeared from his body. This kind of aura is enough to make a normal person's legs tremble, unable to say a single word. But Gu Qingshan silently stared at the president, seemingly unaffected. "I'll give you one last chance. Ask me." The president stared at him and said. The president was still sitting there motionlessly with his back straight. No matter what he did or what he said, his head wouldn't easily move, as if there was something on top of his head. Chapter 390. The president's office fell into an eerie silence. Even the air itself seemed to have frozen. Gu Qingshan and the president stared at each other across the table. Within the silence, the faint sound of gunfire, mech engines, and the trembling of the ground could be heard from afar. The revolution had begun. As the president listened, he appeared to be smiling. He wasn't a person who easily pleased others, but the sound of gunfire from outside did indeed make him happy. Gu Qingshan waved his hand. The cup of tea on the president's desk flew up and slowly landed in front of the president. "Have some tea," Gu Qingshan said. He picked up the cup of tea in front of him and took another sip. This tea is actually quite nice," he commented. The president looked at Gu Qingshan's calm expression, picked up the cup of tea, and took a sniff. He scowled and put the cup down again. The president looked at Gu Qingshan, only to find that her expression didn't change at all. "How did you know?" the president finally asked. "The Federation's martial saint was sent away by you," Gu Qingshan replied. "That doesn't prove anything, that's right. Even the headless scepter, the fake emperor, Tang Jun's death, the appearance of the frozen hell, none of these can prove that you're part of the Federation," Gu Qingshan slowly continued. But not too long ago, I went to further my studies, the president asked in surprise. Genetics? No. Acting in a movie, Gu Qingshan put the cup down and said, Your Majesty, from a professional point of view, you haven't seriously studied the role of the president. You have no qualifications to play him. Never mind the president, I bet you wouldn't even be able to play a minor role. The president stared at him, waiting for the rest of his words. Gu Qingshan continued, Although you've used genetic surgery to change yourself into the president's appearance, every action you make is still you. Did you notice that at that moment? The taste of tea, the tea that the Federation's government bought, was very ordinary, several grades lower than the tribute tea in your palace, and you weren't even interested in tasting it. When you sit, your back is very straight and you look very energetic, but the president is an ordinary person. He is old. The president likes to sit on the sofa, yes, opposite me. He likes to chat and joke with me, while you sit behind the desk with a cold expression. Our president came from the grassroots. He was elected from the county, city, and county. He has the necessary sincerity and smile on his face. You rarely show any expression on your face. This is because everyone wants to please you. The king's smile is a reward for them. Gu Qingshan continued, As long as I imagine you as His Majesty the Emperor, then your every action will be exactly the same as His Majesty the Emperor. Just because of these small things? Do you think I'll believe you? The president asked. Naturally, there are other reasons, but it's not appropriate to tell you. Gu Qingshan continued. The most important thing is that the real president wouldn't split the country in the face of war. Why? He is the elected president, the most beloved leader in history. If his actions hadn't proven this, the people wouldn't have given him this responsibility. Ah, you make it sound like it's the truth. After a bit of silence, the president finally showed a mocking expression. Of course I don't know how to act, he spoke very slowly, but with a firm tone. I'm an expert at dictating the life and death of trillions of people. I'm an expert at conquering the world. Did you manage to do that? Gu Qingshan leaned back on the sofa and asked. The president confidently answered, Just now, on national television, I've already exposed the ugly face of the Nine Lords. I'm the president of the Freedom Federation. My accusations will definitely incite the anger of the people. I've already gained control of a portion of the Freedom Federation military. They're loyal to me. When Impartial Goddess is paralyzed, the military will be at war with the Nine Lords. The people will rise up and cooperate with the military. The president coldly spoke. From today onwards, the Freedom Federation will fall in a civil war. I will return to Fuxi and try my best. Have you thought about how to deal with the Nine Lords? Gu Qingshan asked. In the face of irresistible power, they are nothing but a pile of dregs. Even space monsters are nothing but a pile of dregs in the face of absolute power. While the president was talking, the hollow brain on his body suddenly lit up. Taking a look at the optical computer, the president frowned. What's going on? He asked. A series of reports came from the photon computer. He could vaguely hear the sounds of explosions and roars, as well as people shouting something. Hearing that, the president turned off his hollow brain. His face was covered with frost. Did you tamper with the live TV signal? He almost shouted. That's right, as soon as I noticed something was wrong. I've already contacted Impartial Goddess and told her to do it. I'm the only spectator. Gu Qingshan shook her finger. Your acting skills still need to be trained. It's best if you don't embarrass yourself in front of everyone. Impartial Goddess. She's fine. She's just a bit scared, which means the TV speech wasn't broadcasted in front of the entire nation? I'm sorry. That's indeed the case, Gu Qingshan answered. The president uncomfortably cracked his neck. This is probably the most unrestrained action he's ever made. Still the same question. Please tell me, is the real president still alive? Gu Qingshan asked. Let me think. Which one did I kill? I'm sorry, but I killed a few clones. Maybe the real one was among them, the president smirked. Gu Qingshan's heart relaxed. So that's really the case. He suddenly said, I have to go. Boom. The entire president's manor was split in half, collapsing on both sides. Two figures leapt into the air. Gu Qingshan turned into a streak of light, flying away. The emperor followed, right behind, chasing with all his might. After just a few minutes of flying, They were already far away from the president's manor. Gu Shan suddenly stopped. Seeing that, the emperor slowly flew closer, hovering in the air. "Why aren't you running anymore?" His lips curled into a mocking smirk. "This distance is enough," Gu Shan muttered. "What do you mean?" The emperor's expression turned grim. "It's a secret," Gu Shan answered him. Looking at him, the emperor felt that he had never been so angry in his entire life. All of a sudden, the air around him began to explode. This was the sound of air exploding as soon as it came into contact with his aura. Earth of the five elemental, fifth stage, all things crumble. All matter, in front of the emperor, will have to endure the purest power of destruction. The emperor casually waved his hand. In the center of the capital, a steep mountain that reached into the clouds suddenly appeared. The earth itself began to rise, turning into a towering mountain range that supported the emperor's feet. The emperor stood on top of the mountain, clasping his hands behind his back as he looked at Gu Shan. He raised his hand. Large amounts of soil flowed like water, floating in the air, then compressed into fist-sized spheres. The spheres danced in the air. They looked completely normal, but contained a terrifying amount of mass. Star summoning. As long as anyone was even grazed by them, they would be crushed to death. Chapter 391. Below the Sky. After Gu Shan and the emperor left the presidential palace. Inside the presidential palace, all of the president's aides had already disappeared without a trace. In a dark corner, whether it was an accident or coincidence, this place was affected by the sword chi that Gu Shan used to cut off the presidential palace, causing the buildings around it to be stuck together, forming a blind spot. One of the aides was in this position. The tall aide who made tea for Gu Shan and the president. He was squatting in the blind spot created by Gu Shan, looking around. It was quiet, no one was there. The tall aide quietly crouched down and forcefully pressed on a certain spot in the corner. A hidden hole suddenly appeared. The tall aide immediately crawled in and closed the hole from the inside. The hole was tightly sealed from the outside. It looked like a very ordinary corner. The aide crawled forward in the darkness. The space gradually widened. He stood up and started running. He finally reached the end of the darkness. Breathing heavily, he didn't hesitate to press his hand on the ground. It was an inconspicuous piece among the countless floor tiles. Beep, beep, beep. An electronic voice came from the brick. Initial identity verification passed. Please say the password left by the 9th president of the Federation. As the tall aide listened, his eyes showed a hint of nostalgia and sadness. He only paused for a second, then said, "I like that big table in the office. It would be perfect if there was a bouquet of flowers. Please say the password of the 31st president. Being a president is so tiring. If I have this position again in my next life, I'll have to reconsider. Please say the password of the 21st president. God, I don't want to start a war, but I have no other choice. Please forgive me. Please say the password of the 15th president. I love you, Lan Shi, although I'm the master of this country. I've lost you forever. Password verification complete. Permission granted." The warm white light broke through the darkness. The several meters thick alloy door rumbled open in front of the aide. The aide walked into the brightly lit castle. The alloy door closed behind him. The tall aide strode to the control panel and opened a suitcase on it. Inside were 2 rows of genetic injections. The top row was filled with red potions, and the bottom row was filled with blue potions. The tall advisor picked up a blue potion, stuck it on his arm, and gently pressed the button on the potion. The blue potion instantly entered his body. In the blink of an eye, the tall advisor's appearance underwent a drastic change. His hair was white, his face was wrinkled, and his eyes were filled with wisdom. "President of the Federation. Another president of the Federation. Please verify my identity," he said. In front of the control panel, an electronic voice sounded. "Please wait a moment. Your test item is being randomly selected." Ding dong. Once the project is confirmed, a suit of flexible armor hung from the ceiling in front of the president. "Sir, please put on the human physiological fluctuation test armor and give an impromptu speech." The president moved skillfully and quickly put on the soft armor. He took a deep breath and paused for a second. Following that, a calm and resolute voice resounded in the underground castle. The Freedom Federation will forever belong to us, to every citizen of the Federation. I will defend it, just like I defended my parents, my brothers and sisters. I will stand here for my country and fight against all enemies, be it evil or death. None will force me to retreat. I swear, ding dong. All test results have been compiled, judging from 5 aspects: language, movement, body, expression, and emotion. Your speech score is 92 points. Your emotions are sincere, your expressions are vivid, and your speech is full of passion. You are a qualified provocateur and an outstanding politician. An excellent impromptu speech requires many years of experience, as well as plenty of speaking experience. Not only that, but your speech style also perfectly matches the president's style. The final test will be conducted by impartial goddess herself. You may begin. Impartial goddess. Melodious female voice resounded. Examinee. Hello. Next, please answer my question. Please go ahead. In the president's 61 years of life, there was once a person who forced the president to do many things that he didn't want to do, as well as violently attacking him many times. Whenever the president failed to do what he wanted, he would be scolded and beaten up by that person, a situation that persisted for many years. If you really are the president, please tell me what you truly think of this person. The president went silent for a bit, then smiled. His expression was full of nostalgia. I think he was just a bit impatient. His tone became gentle and warm. Perhaps he didn't find the right way to love me, but that doesn't matter. I am grateful for everything he did for me. Although he has already left me, I will always miss him. Impartial goddess voice resounded. Is this your answer? Yes. The clone body cannot feel what fatherly love is, and your answer matches the president's personality and behavior. Test passed. The results have been confirmed from the 3 aspects of memory, talent, and emotion. Identity confirmed a second later. All the lights on the control panel lit up at once. Impartial goddess spoke. Sir President, I'm very happy to see the real you. I'm sorry I can only use lights to express my joy here. The president smiled. It's been so hard to see you again. I'm also very happy, without caring about anything else. The president first asked, where's the location of the battle between Gu Qingshan and the Fuxi Emperor? The Fuxi Emperor is a powerful 5th stage elementalist, almost unbeatable in the current world. If the Fuxi Emperor were to use his fists in a densely populated area, the casualties would be unimaginable. Impartial goddess answered. Considering that the coup is still ongoing, the Fuxi Emperor wouldn't easily leave the capital. After careful consideration, Sir Gu Qingshan and I chose the most suitable location. Where? The 2 of them have been flying for 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Their speed is close to that of a high-speed shuttle, currently in the outskirts of the capital. The president spoke in a low voice. Let me take a look. The screen turned on. A tall mountain sat next to a large river. Fortunately, this was on the opposite side of the capital, close to the large river, the same river where the giant interstellar warship crashed. The surface of the ground was affected to a certain degree. The nearby buildings that were affected were all blown up into the air, then slowly fell back down, piling up on top of each other. Once molded soft construction materials were also molded into fixed furniture inside the buildings. This ensured the safety of humanity's most basic survival. The other buildings that reached the clouds were still quite a distance away from here, but as soon as the tremors began, they were already holding onto the ground. The unique materials used to build the buildings pierced deep into the ground. Many mechanical arms shot out from the lower 1/3 of the buildings, controlled by the building's balance processor. The president sighed in relief, muttering, "This place is quite good," he continued. "Please tell me, how are our military preparations going?" "Sir, the various military districts' troops don't have complete military intelligence. Please inform the various military districts' commanders and troops immediately," the president said. "Understood, sir." Impartial goddess, if we redeploy the war from now on, do we still have a chance of winning? According to my calculations, the war will continue for 5 years. What is our chance of winning? Is there a chance of peace? There are two conditions for peace. Firstly, it depends on Sir Gu Qingshan's battle against the Fuxi Emperor. Secondly, you must lead the Federation to fight against the Fuxi Empire's invasion. On the screen, Gu Qingshan and the Fuxi Emperor were hovering in the air, facing each other. The president looked at this scene and said with relief, "I really didn't expect this." Impartial Goddess curiously asked. Sir Gu Qingshan left the president's office to create a chance for you to enter the bunker. That's right, the president recalled. The last time I met him, it was raining. We were discussing the genetic serum. He expressed his support for me at that time. I also made him a pot of tea. Only he and I were there, the president smiled. Just now, I did the same thing, said the same thing. Every action was exactly the same. And the last thing I said was a hint to him. What did you hint to him? You gave him the highest authority in the Federation. He and I will share the highest authority in the Federation. I've already discussed this with him. So I used the teapot to hint to him. He might have been a bit doubtful and didn't believe me at first, but he immediately began to observe the president. Perhaps he noticed something wasn't right and decided to take him away. Because of that, I was given the chance to enter this place. Both of you have done very well, Impartial Goddess commented. The control panel opened as a heavy box slowly rose up. The box automatically opened. Impartial Goddess changed the way she addressed him. Esteemed Chief Commander of the 3 armies, please give your order. Looking at the mobile command platform inside the box, the president's expression became serious. He typed a line of text and pressed the confirm button. I order all 3 armies to prepare for battle. Chapter 392. The cold rain was still falling. In the sky, Gu Qingshan grabbed the void of space and took out the earth sword. He evaluated the Fuxi Emperor standing in front of him, a 5th-stage professionist, only a bit weaker than a Sainted Realm cultivator. But professionists don't know how to cultivate, don't know how to use the world's spirit energy. Their fighting skills are also much weaker than cultivators. That's why Gu Qingshan didn't feel any fear facing the Fuxi Emperor. Your life has come to an end, the Fuxi Emperor said. He clasped his hands behind his back. From a mountain range below him, countless rocks and dirt flew up, forming balls of rock in the air. More and more, almost covering the entire sky behind the Emperor. A dark yellow glow flickered on and off from the balls of rock. This is the manifestation of the earth elemental power. Your Majesty, why don't you reconsider? Life and death isn't a small matter, Gu Qingshan said. The Fuxi Emperor smirked sarcastically. He pointed his finger at Gu Qingshan. Dozens of balls of rock flew through the air, followed by dozens more. One after another, the balls of rock flew towards Gu Qingshan. Earth Elemental, Star Strike. Gu Qingshan held the earth sword and lowered it. He didn't move, only formed a hand seal with his other hand. A streak of light descended from the sky. Like a rapid stream of water, it pierced through the heavy ice rain, leaving a trail of light in the sky. The sound of the sword clashing was like metal and rock colliding. The streak of light broke a yellow rock ball, exploding in the middle of the stars. The black sword images in the sky were like flowers in the void, swaying in the air. Boom, 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 boom. As soon as the images appeared, the stars fell. All of the flying stone balls turned into dust and scattered. Then, they were enveloped by the torrential cold rain and rapidly fell to the ground. Seeing this, the Fuxi Emperor's expression changed. Every time one of the balls hit the ground, it would cause a small earthquake. Gu Qingshan stood still, easily dispelling his attack. What kind of attack is this? The Fuxi Emperor couldn't help but ask. Flying sword, Gu Qingshan casually answered. As if responding to his words, the Chaoyin sword appeared in the air, letting out a high-pitched woo-woo sound. A second later, it disappeared into the wind and rain, circling around the Fuxi Emperor. It was looking for an opportunity to attack. After countless years, the ancient sword finally revealed its brilliance once again. The Fuxi Emperor roared and punched the air. The void was shattered by this punch. Black spatial cracks gathered into a ball and suddenly exploded, like a black that kept expanding on a piece of white paper. The chaotic space rushed towards Gu Qingshan. This was a completely shattered space. Anyone who was sucked into it would be torn to pieces. Of course, it was also possible that they would disappear without a trace. But the Fushi Emperor didn't care about the effect of this attack. He suddenly turned around and crossed his arms above his head. Boiling black light ignited from his arms. As soon as the Fushi Emperor got into a defensive stance, the Chao Yin sword came crashing down. In the blink of an eye, the Chao Yin sword had slashed dozens of times. Wind/sword art. Get lost! The Fushi Emperor angrily shouted. Clang! The Chao Yin sword was sent flying backwards. The Emperor's arms trembled and couldn't help but take a step back. Right at this moment, Gu Qingshan suddenly appeared and followed up with a sword. Divine skill, ground shrink. The Fushi Emperor barely managed to dodge. Gu Qingshan took advantage of that and swung down with a mountain splitter. The Fushi Emperor couldn't dodge, so he took a deep breath and used both hands to parry. Boom! Like a cannonball, he was sent crashing into the mountain below. Gu Qingshan was also a bit surprised. He looked at the Earth Sword. The Earth Sword spoke with a resounding voice. He dares to control the Earth in front of me. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Two figures were flying towards them from afar. Your Majesty, General Song and General Li both called out. Inside the crater, the Emperor stood up and spat out a mouthful of blood. Gather our men. We're going to kill him, he ordered. Yes. The two generals moved. They leapt to the sky, heading towards Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan wielded the Earth Sword and flew forward. The three of them met. I'll go first, Li Donyuan said. His body was enveloped in a thick layer of water, turning into a giant. Song Tianwu took a step back and sent a signal to the sky. Very quickly, numerous black dots were flying towards them from afar. Gu Qingshan's eyes twitched. They were professionists wearing military uniforms, quickly flying towards them from all directions. Being able to fly is the symbol of a fifth-stage professionist. Since when did the Federation's army have so many fifth-stage professionists? He released his inner sight and scanned through all the professionists here. So that's how it is. Gu Qingshan looked at Li Donyuan, then at Song Tianwu. All the professionists only had different appearances, but their figures were exactly the same as the two generals. They were all clones of fifth-stage professionists. There were a total of 65th-stage professionists in total. This was a force that could easily sweep through the entire world. The Fushi Emperor clasped his hands behind his back, flew up, and landed in front of Gu Qingshan. He showed a rare smile and said, The game is over. No matter how much you do, the human realm will become hell. This will not change. Gu Qingshan looked at him like this was the first time she met him. Your Majesty, he spoke in a low voice, I've always thought that you wanted to conquer this world, not destroy it. The Fushi Emperor went silent for a bit, then said, When my ancestor descended, I knew that this was an unstoppable calamity. He seemed to be talking to Gu Qingshan, but also to himself. If there's no turning back, why not help my ancestor establish his advantage? By the time the other combatants awaken, we'll have already conquered the entire world. He clenched his fist. This will be the continuation of the empire, only in a different form. I'm very satisfied with this. Gu Qingshan suddenly cut him off. If one day another powerful force manages to conquer the frozen hell, will you also go join them? Your way of looking at the problem is completely wrong. The Emperor shook his head. I'm wrong. If you look at the problem outside of this era, you'll find that the succession and change of dynasties is an undeniable rule of history. No matter how much you love an era, you can only watch as it dies in the torrent of history. The Emperor had a fanatical expression on his face. But hell is different. My ancestor has already stood in the frozen hell for over 2,000 years. His dynasty has always continued. It's not like that, Your Majesty. Gu Qingshan sincerely spoke. Think about it. A few years later, when the entire world has already been destroyed, humanity has scattered to the various hells, your wives and children are nowhere to be found. Your subjects no longer love your kingdom. No one worships you. No one has any feelings of love for you. No cheers, no praise, no gratitude. And you'll be sitting alone on your throne in the frozen hell, surrounded by nothing but frost, only the undead. that temporarily obey you because of your power. Such days will continue for eternity. Your Majesty, trust me, you won't like those days. The emperor remained expressionless and didn't say anything. Gu Qing continued. Now, let us assume that all of this has already happened. Several years have passed. The planet has been destroyed, and you've suddenly received a chance to be reborn. You've returned from the frozen throne to the present day 10 years ago. Your wife and children are still alive. Your kingdom is growing stronger by the day. Your subjects are all grateful to you. Humanity is about to unite and fight against the invasion of hell, bravely fighting for their lives. At this time, you're standing in front of me. Your Majesty, the fate of the entire world is once again in your hands. How do you intend to live this time? Your Majesty, please make a new choice. Aside from the cold rain, the world was silent. The emperor's mouth opened and closed a few times before he finally spoke. You've forgotten one thing. Please go ahead. Hell is invincible. Humanity can only lose in the face of the dead. Your Majesty, it seems you're not a qualified ruler. Why do you say that? Gu Qing sighed. When a country is destroyed, the emperor should at least be the last to surrender, but you've gone beyond the boundaries of your country and become humanity's first traitor. He tapped his inventory bag. The UG general armor flew out and broke apart in the void of space. The various parts of the armor glowed with a golden light, circling around Gu Qingshan's body. Chapter 393. Traitor? You're saying I'm a traitor? The emperor's face twitched, as if that word triggered his anger. The emperor spoke in a low voice. I have so many fifth-stage professionists, while you're only one. I only need to give the order, and you'll forever shut that stinky mouth of yours. Your Majesty, I've always thought of you as a conqueror. If that's the case, no matter how you deal with the Nine Lords, as long as you don't start a war, I don't need to get involved. Gu Qingshan put the silver mask on her face and continued. But you're nothing but a cowardly dog. I can only kill you. How dare you? The Fuxi Emperor couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted, Kill him! Kill him! Li Dongyuan and Song Tianshan shouted at the same time. All the clones shouted at the same time, Kill! Various elemental lights came from their bodies, illuminating the entire sky. You think you're stronger just because you have more people? Seems like I'll have to teach you a lesson. Gu Qingshan sighed and shook her head. He changed War God title to Ace Assassin and instantly disappeared. A golden streak of light flew straight into the midst of the enemies. In an instant, sword chi filled the sky. Intense tremors erupted in the sky. Both sides were locked in combat. The Fuxi Empire. The palace in the desert oasis. The throne was empty. The entire palace was empty. Emperor stood in front of the window, staring at the oasis. The door of the palace suddenly opened. Zhang Yongho walked in. As a member of the security, he was the only one allowed to enter and leave as he pleased. Your Highness, a few officials are here to see you, Zhang Yongho reported. Empress didn't turn around. I won't see them. Tell them to leave. What's the point of seeing me now? She muttered. You should meet them. They're all officials who support you, Zhang Yongho said. How did you know? I have to understand my clients a bit. That way I can better serve them. If we can't enter the Iron Curtain, there's nothing we can do. Empress sighed. Zhang Yongho thought about it and said, I have a few top-notch hackers with me. Maybe you can talk to them about the Emperor's habits. What's the point? After they fully understand His Majesty, they might be able to find the secret key to the Iron Curtain. Empress was silent for a moment and suddenly smiled. Understand him? Understand His Majesty the Emperor? Her beautiful and dignified face was filled with deep sorrow. I remember a long time ago, when he was drunk, he told me that ever since he was young, he had dreamed of having a pure gold crown, and that the crown had to be inlaid with rare gems. Empress said slowly, I searched for 10 years and finally found a cosmic gem. This gem is very beautiful and is unique to the entire planet. That year, on the Eternal Sky Festival, the crown was finally completed. I gave it to him as a holiday surprise. When he saw it, he was very happy. He thanked me profusely and put on the crown on the spot. Isn't that great? Jang Young-ho was puzzled. After that day, he never wore that crown again. Not even once, no matter the situation. Empress was puzzled. He's always erratic and temperamental. I have no idea what he's thinking. What do you want me to talk to your subordinates about? Jang Young-ho sighed. This is troublesome. It seems we're at our wits' end. Suddenly, a commotion broke out outside. Very soon, a minister was escorted to kneel at the entrance of the hall. The minister was covered in blood as he shouted, "Your Highness, quickly think of something. The Empire's vanguard mecha operators will enter the Federation's territory in 200 kilometers. The Empire's vanguard mecha operators killing their way into the Federation signified the start of a great war." Empress looked at the minister. This was a senior statesman of the Empire who had served for 3 generations. He was a wise old politician and had always had a good relationship with Empress. At this moment, he was kneeling on the ground with tears streaming down his face. "Your Highness, the 9 lords aren't as simple as they seem. If a war breaks out, it won't be decided for several years. Tens of thousands of civilians will die in the war." Empress sighed, walked up, and helped the old man up. "I have no choice either," she sorrowfully said. At this point, another minister ran up and knelt down. "Your Highness, the Freedom Federation's 3 armies are on the move. Their troops are quickly approaching the border. The one leading the Federation's army is the Federation's Marshal Saint, Zhang Zongyang." Marshal Saint, Zhang Zongyang. This man was the Federation's god of war, capable of fighting against 1,000 on the battlefield alone. With him there, as soon as the 2 armies meet, the war will immediately enter its most desperate phase. The Federation might not necessarily win, but the Empire will definitely suffer heavy losses. Verona and Empress finally became anxious. She paced back and forth with a worried expression. "What now?" Jang Young-ho said. "Your Highness, I remember that you also have the authority to enter Iron Shroud. I don't have the authority to command the army. The Emperor has already locked everyone else's authority. Only he can command the army." Empress said. Jang Young-ho thought for a bit. "What if he's dead? I heard that Iron Shroud's authority is only for the royal family. If he's dead, Iron Shroud's authority will naturally be transferred to me. But who in the world can kill him?" Empress shook her head and dejectedly said, "We can't. We have no way to stop him." Jang Young-ho looked down and asked the Hollow Brain, "Does Gu Qin-shan know about this?" Impartial Goddess replied, "He knows. Did he find the Emperor?" "Sir Gu Qin-shan has found the Emperor's true body. The 2 of them are currently fighting in the capital's outskirts." Jang Young-ho nodded, then told Empress, "I think you should try and see if you can connect to Iron Shroud." "I've already tried," Empress replied. Try again and again. Maybe you'll be able to." Empress looked at him and asked, "Why?" "I'm sorry to say this, but Gu Qin-shan definitely has a way to kill your husband. Who knows? He might be able to do it in the next second," Jang Young-ho said with certainty. If that's the case, Empress recalled Gu Qin-shan's performance in the palace, gritted her teeth, and made her decision. She took out her hollow brain and tapped on it until she entered a UI. It was a wall of cold steel. "Iron Shroud. I'm Empire Empress Verona Medici. Please allow me to log in." Empress spoke to the hollow brain. A mechanical voice came from the hollow brain. "You do not have the authority to command the Fushi Empire's army. You're not allowed to log in." Empress angrily slapped her hollow brain. "I can't get in. Seems like the Emperor isn't that easy to deal with. At least he's still alive." Jang Young-ho's eyes flickered and asked again, "Who's in command of the Empire's mobile mech vanguard?" Empress immediately understood and turned to look at the old minister. "If Iron Shroud can't get in, then I might as well find the commander and stop the army from advancing. Right now, the thing I lack the most is time. I have to think of a way to delay the outbreak of war until the battle between Gu Qin-shan and the Emperor is decided." The old minister hurriedly said, "It's Field Marshal Zhang Peijia. I'm going to find him right now." He turned on his hollow brain and called a certain number. The call connected but was refused. The old minister squinted his eyes and mused. "He actually refused my call," Empress replied. "The situation during wartime is different. It's understandable that the field marshal doesn't want to talk to you. Luckily, he usually listens to me." Empress immediately decided. "This won't do. I'll have to send a special envoy to him. Perhaps he'll be able to convince him to temporarily bide his time. Even if the field marshal can only delay the outbreak of war for a bit, the situation might still change. The old minister asked, but who should we send? There will be quite a few people watching on the way. If the field marshal leans towards the emperor's side, the special envoy himself will also be in danger, Empress pondered. We can't send a civil official. Civil officials can't even enter the barracks, the old minister also said. Military officials won't do either. The field marshal is the highest commander. Military officials won't be able to do anything against the field marshal. While they were talking, Empress suddenly glanced at Zhang. Young-ho, what is it, your highness? Zhang Young-ho asked. Empress seriously thought for a bit and replied, I know what you're capable of. You're the Federation's king of hitmen. You have countless hitmen working for you. Although you've retreated behind the scenes these past few years, your strength has always been improving, and so, Zhang Young-ho asked, with your means and strength, you'll definitely be able to do this well. So please make a trip in my stead, take my secret letter, and take a high-speed shuttle to see the field marshal. The Empress picked up her pen and quickly wrote something on a piece of paper. Field Marshal Zhang. What kind of person is he? Zhang Young-ho asked. He's a centrist, but tends to lean towards us a bit more often, the old minister replied. Zhang Young-ho fell into thought. Empress continued. Take my seal and letter to Field Marshal Zhang. Help me persuade him to think of a way to delay the outbreak of war. Will he listen? Zhang Young-ho asked. I think he'll definitely be willing to listen, Empress replied. Zhang Young-ho was a bit troubled. Your Highness, I'm a hitman. To be honest, I only know how to kill people. What I just did isn't within the scope of my profession. Empress stared at him seriously. Your Highness, I'm prepared to pay you twice as much. Zhang Young-ho froze for a second. Generous, Your Highness Empress. I guarantee that everything will be as you wish, he immediately said. After you go, even if you can't convince the field marshal, you have to think of a way to delay the outbreak of war, Empress said the most important thing. Please trust in my professionalism, Zhang Young-ho replied. A few moments later, Empress finished writing the letter. She read through the letter a few times before solemnly handing it over to Zhang Young-ho. Zhang Young-ho received the seal and letter from Empress and clapped his hands. Chapter 394. The Forest. Silence. A wild rabbit suddenly jumped out, chewing on something. It was jumping forward, occasionally paying attention to any movements around it. As the rabbit was jumping, a hand suddenly fell down and gently lifted it up. For some reason, being caught by this hand, the rabbit was trembling, not daring to move at all. Zhang Young-ho gave the rabbit to Tong Tong behind him. Is it cute? He asked. Cute. Tong Tong happily hugged the rabbit, adding, Wild ones taste better. I want to braise it, tease you little girl. You're not cute at all, Zhang Young-ho commented. A cold voice sounded, Boss, Zhang Pei Jia shot my paper doll. Zhang Young-ho turned to look. 3 paper dolls were standing on the grass. One of them looked like Zhang Young-ho. There was a black hole on the doll's forehead, as if it was shot by a gun. A fat man stood next to the doll, then clapped his hand. Zhang Young-ho's paper doll was instantly burnt to ashes. He has 24 bodyguards with him. He looks very powerful, but I think he's just afraid of death, the fat man said. What marshal? Did he say anything to me? Zhang Young-ho asked. I controlled your paper doll to persuade him to delay the war, but after reading the secret letter, he said something to your doll, saying so. The fat man couldn't help but laugh. What did he say? Zhang Young-ho asked. Who the hell do you think you are? The fat man said. Zhang Young-ho scratched his head. The hitmen around him all smiled. It's been so many years since they saw their boss being humiliated, they all felt an inexplicable sense of joy. Zhang Young-ho thought for a bit, then turned on his hollow brain and asked, Impartial goddess, can you help me make a genetic serum for plastic surgery? There's no time. 19 minutes later, the Empire's mobile mech vanguard will arrive at the border. The war will begin, Impartial goddess answered. So soon. Zhang Young-ho looked at his watch and sighed. I can only use the ancient method. Tong Tong, go and fetch me that man's face. Before Tong Tong could speak, the fat man whispered to her, Your paper doll is locked in his room. Tong Tong pouted and said, "You pervert. It's not me. It's that Marshal," Fatty quickly explained. "Boss, can I kill that Marshal?" Tong Tong asked. "It's up to you, but killing him doesn't count as work. You won't get any extra money," Jang Young-ho immediately said. "Then forget it," Tong Tong said with flagging interest. "I'll just leave him with an unforgettable memory. Time is of the essence." "You have 7 minutes," Jang Young-ho said. "Yes, boss," Tong Tong said. She pulled out 2 sharp daggers and held the ponytail in her mouth. She bent her body slightly and leaped into the air. In the blink of an eye, she turned into a black crow and flew towards the camp. "Tong Tong is still young. Someone go and protect her," Jang Young-ho ordered. The 2 figures disappeared without a trace. Jang Young-ho then ordered, "Fatty, you're up in a bit." The fat man scowled and said, "I used to have the guts to exchange a few blows with that old man, but I don't anymore. Why not? You know, Sir Marshal Saint recently learned a mysterious training method and became much stronger. I'm worried I'll be torn apart by him." As Jang Young-ho looked around, all the men in black that he looked at avoided his eyes. He asked, "It's just to buy some time, and you can even exchange blows with the Marshal Saint. Why isn't anyone signing up for such a good opportunity?" No one answered him. The fat man whispered, "A hitman's life is also a human life, boss." At the border, frost slowly covered the ground. On the hillside, a black stream of metal was stepping on the white frost, moving as fast as lightning. The Empire's Vanguard Mech Division, as the elite of the Vanguard, has always been the best of the best. After going over this mountain, they rushed down the slope and entered the Federation's borders. The march was very fast, and the entire process was very smooth. The soldiers advanced silently. Everyone was fully focused as they operated the mobile mechs meticulously. Even the military's communication channel, no one dared to say a word, because the Field Marshal Zhang Peijia was in the military. He followed the Empire's Vanguard Mech Division, moving forward together. He said he wanted to see for himself, and so he came. He was a very practical person. Today, he wasn't in a good mood, so no one dared to say anything, afraid of provoking him. According to rumors, he received Her Highness Empress's envoy today. Both sides closed the door and erupted into a heated argument. Empress's envoy brought a few subordinates and was about to slam the door and leave. The field marshal directly tied up 3 envoys and shot one of them on the spot. Iron Shroud also noticed this small dispute. As the Fushi Empire's most advanced military AI, it directly bypassed the field marshal and issued orders to all the mech soldiers. All soldiers were ordered to attack with all their might. Without Iron Shroud's permission, they are not allowed to retreat, otherwise they'll be treated as treason. It began to personally command this battle. The field marshal was being made a figurehead by an AI. It's easy to imagine how angry he was. From the looks of it, he was already on the verge of exploding. The field marshal's trusted aides didn't mind talking too much about this. They wanted everyone to know that the field marshal has made up his mind to follow the emperor's footsteps. On another side, in front of the hill, the Federation's vanguard has arrived. The hastily assembled vanguard doesn't have much of an advantage. If such a vanguard were to run into the Empire's regular army, defeat would be the only outcome. But with that man here, everything is different. The soldiers sat inside their mechs, occasionally adjusting the holographic projection to a certain angle to silently observe that man. He's the idol of every soldier. A middle-aged man. Thick eyebrows, hawk-like eyes, tan skin, body as straight as a spear. Dark green military uniform, black military boots, a sword and a shield on his shoulder. A sword and a shield signified the rank of a general. He silently sat on the shoulder of a 5-meter-tall mech, lighting a cigarette as he silently stared at the hill outside the border. According to the intel, the Empire's 477th mech will be the first to arrive. Once this regiment of 8,000 mechs shows up on the hill, the war between the two countries will immediately begin. Zhang Zongyang silently sighed. The Federation has been at peace for too long. Their military has been neglected. On the other hand, the Fushi Empire, under the Emperor's constant training and constant military drills, their fighting strength is much stronger than the Federation. Right now, I can only rely on myself to hold them off. Hopefully, before I run out of power, I'll be able to hold them off for a bit longer and by the Federation sometime prepare. While he was thinking, a black dot appeared on the hill. Zhang Zongyang's pupils dilated. Black is the most commonly used color for Fushi's mech squadron. After this black dot appeared, another black dot appeared. Innumerable black dots appeared one after another. The mechs covered the entire hill, letting out a series of rumbling noises. Thousands of black mechs began to move towards the Federation's border. The Marshal Saint threw his cigarette away, stood up and shouted, "Prepare for battle, for the Freedom Federation, for the Freedom Federation." The soldiers followed suit. The mechs all let out a series of rumbling noises, preparing to attack at any moment. When the Marshal Saint was about to lead the charge, a strange scene appeared on the hill. A black mech jumped out from the crowd, leaving a trail of dust in its wake, heading straight to the front. The black mech opened up as a military officer wearing a black uniform jumped out, standing on the mech's shoulder. The military officer shouted, "Fushi Empire's Field Marshal Zhang Peijia challenges the Federation's Marshal Saint Zhang Zongyang to a life-or-death challenge." His voice was like thunder, shaking the entire battlefield. At such a crucial moment, such a scene actually happened. All the Federation's troops that were ready to go stopped. The thousands of mechs on the hill also stopped. At this moment, the armies of the two countries stopped moving. It's very rare for there to be a life-or-death challenge between high-ranking generals of both countries. Whenever such a situation occurs, the two generals represent their country's honor. As soldiers, there's no way out in such a challenge. They can only do their best to kill the other party or die. This is a battle to the death between two generals, representing the outcome of the war between countries. According to the rules of the battlefield, no one is allowed to interrupt this battle of the highest level. Iron Shroud remained silent. An impartial goddess also didn't interfere. In the history of humanity's wars, there have been countless battles like this. In fact, the outcome of each of these battles has always greatly influenced the course of the war. Iron Shroud and Impartial Goddess, while concentrating on mobilizing their troops, also paid close attention to the battle. Zhang Zongyang squinted his eyes to evaluate the other party. It's been many years since he's met such a brave enemy. "What do you want to challenge?" Zhang Zongyang asked. "A mech battle," Zhang Peijia answered. "Very well, as you wish." Zhang Zongyang went back in his mech. Zhang Peijia also jumped back in and closed the cockpit. From both sides, a chorus of voices could be heard. "Marshal Saint! Marshal Saint! Marshal Saint! Marshal! 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 Marshal!" The armies of both countries let out a thunderous roar. The black mech was the first to move. It took large strides towards the bottom of the hill. While running, the mech took off all the weapons on its body. Rotary high-explosive machine gun, high-frequency molecular knife, long-range shock bullets, small laser cannons, concentrated fire armor-piercing bullets. All of these weapons rolled down the hill, letting out loud, clanking noises. After taking off all of its accessories, the mech speed increased by 30%. The mech speed continued to increase. With the roar of its engine, the black mech flew past the hill, heading straight for the Marshal Saint. How interesting, seeing his opponent's actions, Zhang Zongyang understood. Is this a pure mech battle? He didn't think too much and made his decision. The green mech's entire body shook as all of its weapons fell to the ground. Boom! The mech let out an unprecedented roar as it charged down the hill. Chapter 395. In the sky. Several powerful attacks converged at once, forcing Gu Qingshan into a dead end. The full power attack of 60 top-level professionists was something that no one could stop. Even Gu Qingshan would die without a doubt. Gu Qingshan stood still in the air. Dead. The Emperor squinted his eyes and muttered. All of a sudden, Gu Qingshan disappeared where he stood. A clone combatant appeared where he was. He was clearly shocked. In his vision, there was a blinding light. No, he only had time to say a single word. The light of destruction engulfed him. The all-out attack of 60 experts had completely obliterated him, leaving not even a speck of dust behind. On the other side, Gu Qingshan appeared. The earth sword flashed, easily cutting through a person like cutting tofu. Go, Gu Qingshan said. The earth sword flew into the void of space. A pop sound was heard. A combatant's head was pierced through by the earth sword. Red and white brain matter splattered everywhere. As Gu Qingshan gave up on the earth sword, another dozen attacks flew towards him. Gu Qingshan didn't dodge at all and used the Chaoyin sword to chop off another professionist's head. The dozen attacks hit him. Boom! The attacks hit. The void of space itself trembled from the impact. But the one who died was a combatant who was in the middle of attacking. Gu Qingshan appeared where that combatant originally stood. The emperor's heart sank and angrily shouted, "Be careful. He knows a god's chosen skill that allows him to switch places with others." Everyone was shocked. Gu Qingshan disappeared again and reappeared behind another combatant. This time, it wasn't just switching places. Ground shrink. Sha! With a swing of the sword, the combatant died. After killing him, Gu Qingshan disappeared again. Right now, he's an Ascended Realm cultivator, a famous figure even in the cultivation world. The total spirit energy of an Ascended Realm cultivator is more than enough for Gu Qingshan to use her skill. In the void, spots of golden light kept flashing and disappearing. One by one, the professionists were beheaded, falling from the sky. His Majesty could not believe his eyes. Gu Qingshan only did two things. He suddenly appeared. He waved his sword casually. No one could stop him. He was like an ancient golden-armored deity flying in the air, wielding his long sword to harvest lives. Notifications kept popping up on the War God UI. Instant kill, spiritual power returned. Instant kill, spiritual power returned. Instant kill, spiritual power returned. Don't use any spells. Let's attack together. Kill him. His Majesty the Emperor gritted his teeth and shouted. The professionists swarmed forward. Gu Qingshan retreated. The Chaoyin sword flew out of his hand. Streaks of light as bright as stars condensed into lines that cut through the void of space, circling around and killing the pursuing professionists. Secret art, star mark. What kind of ability is this? I've never seen such a technique before, a professionist exclaimed in shock. A line of blood spread across his body, ending his fear. Gu Qingshan's hand seals didn't stop. The earth sword was also flying through the void of space, harvesting the lives in the sky. No matter how powerful a professionist was, they couldn't stop the earth sword's full power strike. Even after half of the professionists in the sky were killed, no one was able to harm Gu Qingshan at all. Even if it was a clone, it would collapse at this moment. They screamed in terror and fled in all directions. But the flying sword was faster than them. Not too long after, all the clones were killed. It was now that Gu Qingshan turned around and looked at the Fuxi Emperor. The Fuxi Emperor suppressed his emotions, observed Gu Qingshan from top to bottom, then suddenly asked, "What's your relationship with the Pope of the Holy Church?" "Why do you ask?" Gu Qingshan was surprised. "I've always thought that the Pope was the only one in this world that was completely unimaginable. But now another one has appeared," the Emperor slowly spoke. "Your actions and fighting style are completely different from ours. Incomprehensible, the Pope." Gu Qingshan suddenly recalled. During the final moments of the apocalypse, the Pope disappeared from the human realm. Impartial goddess voice came, cutting off his thoughts. "Your Excellency, please end the battle as soon as possible. The armies of the two countries have already met." "Very well," Gu Qingshan replied. He formed a hand seal. The earth's sword hovered next to him. The Chaoyin sword also returned. Gu Qingshan slowly spoke. "Your Majesty, this is your last chance. Surrender. How regretful. My clones aren't perfect," the Fuxi Emperor sighed. Gu Qingshan replied, "Fighting requires accumulation. Even if the clones can replicate power without at least a few hundred battles, how would they be able to exert that power?" The Fuxi Emperor didn't say anything. Gu Qingshan continued, "Please order the Fuxi Empire's armies to retreat. the Fushi Emperor suddenly laughed. Fool! He shook his head. The world can't go back. The world can't go back, but we can make it move towards a better direction. Instead of collapsing, Gu Qingshan spoke. The future I embrace is the future where the Empire rules the world, the Emperor shouted. Steam began to form around his body. The steam drifted around him, forming a thick mist that condensed into a bead of ice. The Emperor held the ice bead in his hand and crushed it. The Emperor's voice became low. You are very strong, but if I turn into a dead person, you won't be able to kill me. As he spoke, Gu Qingshan appeared regretful and sighed. A piercing pain. The earth sword pierced through the Emperor's chest, flying towards Gu Qingshan. Blood dripped down from the earth sword, the beating heart scattered into pieces, blown away by the cold wind. Ah! The Emperor clutched his chest, looking down at the bloody hole in his chest. He suddenly laughed maniacally. Ah ha ha ha! It's too late. I've already summoned my ancestors. I'll soon gain an undying body. The drifting steam condensed into a block of ice in front of him. The Emperor took the block of ice and pressed it into his chest. This is the heart of ice from now on. As long as I touch any piece of ice in hell, I'll be able to recover from my wounds. The Emperor looked at Gu Qingshan and smiled faintly. He now has a heart of ice. You've turned into a dead person of your own accord, Gu Qingshan spoke in a low voice. That's right. Now it's your turn to think, the Emperor slowly spoke. How can I win against an undying dead person? His voice stopped. The ice in the Emperor's chest slowly spread to his entire body, turning him into a block of ice. Just like that, he was frozen inside a block of ice. Only his head was exposed, but he couldn't move at all. The Emperor looked around, his eyes filled with doubt and confusion. This isn't what I thought it would be. Inside this block of ice, he actually didn't die. The block of ice covered the Emperor, hovering in the air without anything to rely on. Such a strange scene caused even Gu Qingshan to be shocked. No matter what, the war has already erupted. The Fushi Emperor must die. Gu Qingshan wielded the earth sword, about to step forward and finish him off. But just as he was about to move, he suddenly stopped. A bad premonition appeared in his mind. What is that? Gu Qingshan muttered. Something seemed to have arrived without anyone noticing. Water vapor began to rise from the block of ice. The vapor carried a faint gray hue, quickly filling the sky. Almost instantly, the vapor formed a river that stretched across the sky, appearing in front of Gu Qingshan. Looking at this river, one couldn't help but feel fear and despair, as if some sort of irresistible disaster was about to descend. Forgetting river? No, it's not even close. Gu Qingshan tried to distinguish it and muttered. As if the river was alive, it slowly moved towards Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan's entire body was on guard. He's fought countless battles in his life, but he's never fought against a river before. When there was still a few dozen meters between them, the river had already turned into a giant wave, crashing down on Gu Qingshan. While Gu Qingshan was thinking of a way to deal with it, the Chao Yin sword suddenly flew into his hand. The Chao Yin sword was trembling, as if trying to say something. A notification popped up on the War God UI. Chao Yin sword requesting to use your soul points. Usage limit, 10. Would you like to allow it to use your soul points? Soul points are divine power. Both the Wild Raging Flame armor and the Qianmai Empress have used it before. It's like a source of power that's supporting Gu Qingshan's advancement. Who would have thought, as soon as the Chao Yin sword was repaired, it would need to use soul points? Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised and spoke expectantly. I'll allow it. Another line of text appeared on the War God UI. Soul points used. An invisible gust of wind drifted around Gu Qingshan, extending to the Chao Yin sword. The Chao Yin sword let out an earth-shattering noise, then quickly quieted down. However, in the face of this buzzing sound, the river seemed to be frightened and suddenly changed. The river parted in front of Gu Qingshan. The rushing water bypassed him and quickly flowed away. Gu Qingshan stood still without a single drop of water on him. Could it be that the so-called crossing even sea of bitterness is actually controlling water? No, that river just now wasn't just pure elemental water. Gu Qingshan mused. From the void of space, a hoarse whisper could be heard. How miraculous. A power that prevents me from getting close. Following this voice, a frigid aura began to spread. Hearing this voice, the Fushi Emperor's expression calmed down a bit. Ancestor, you've finally arrived, the Emperor said. Behind the Fushi Emperor, a throne made entirely of ice appeared from the void of space. A skeleton sat on top of the throne that emanated frigid air. A loose black robe covered his body, revealing only his skull. On top of the skull was a crown of ice. In his hand was a sword that gave off a faint gray aura. The skeleton opened its mouth and spoke in a low, hoarse voice. Emperor, it seems your entire plan has failed. Ancestor, this person is very strange. Even my subordinates weren't a match for him, the Fushi Emperor explained. UVE failed, the black robe spoke. Do you know what failure means to an emperor of a country? Ancestor, please give me one more chance. As long as I become a dead person, I definitely won't let him go, the Fushi Emperor said. The black robe calmly spoke. Did you not hear me? Then I'll say it again, you lost. The Fushi Emperor was frozen in ice, not knowing what to do. He's never tried to please anyone before. So facing this situation, he couldn't even say a single good word. The black cloaked skeleton leaned forward and stared at the Emperor. When a country is destroyed, the Emperor should at least be the last to surrender. Yet you've gone beyond the scope of a country and become the first traitor of the entire human world. This is your failure as a human, the Fushi Emperor froze. Gu Qingshan also said this before. The black robe skeleton continued. It's fine that you joined us, but you've screwed everything up as the Emperor. You betrayed your own country, betrayed your own world as a speculator. You've used up all the chips you had, but you've brought me nothing. The black robe skeleton's tone carried a deep sense of disgust. You don't deserve the heart of ice, and, as a failure, the best way for you to atone for your sins is to become a weapon like the other useless emperors, the black robe skeleton said. The sword that gave off a gray aura flashed. The Fushi Emperor's head fell to the ground, his face full of disbelief. Even though he's covered in ice, he still hasn't lost his life. The Emperor looked at the black robe skeleton, finally begging. I'm your descendant, ancestor. My descendant. Listen to me carefully. The black robe raised the Fushi Emperor's head and spoke. Your actions have proven that you don't deserve to be the Fushi Emperor. If you're not the Emperor, then you're only an insignificant descendant of mine. Saying so, the black robe straightened his body, tilted his head back, and took a deep breath. On top of the Fushi Emperor's head, an illusory figure flew up, screaming in fear. This figure was sucked into the black robe's nose. The black robe's expression was one of ecstasy. The soul of one's descendant is still the most powerful, he moaned. In his hand, the Fushi Emperor's head had turned into a skull. Just like that, the Fushi Emperor was killed by his own ancestor. Chapter 396. When the president mobilized the three armies to prepare for war, the outbreak of war was actually delayed. Following the Federation's sudden mobilization, this war had reached its peak intensity. This level of war could easily cause a devastating blow to both countries. Iron Shroud had to readjust his strategy, and so did Impartial Goddess. The deployment of troops had become more complicated and difficult to calculate. A human's brain can understand the calculations of two war AIs, but one thing is for sure. Iron Shroud has become a lot more cautious. His movements have slowed down. On Impartial Goddess' side, her actions have also increased. But she's even more cautious than Iron Shroud when it comes to contact between the two armies. She knows that a lot of people are doing everything they can to stop this war. Many of her deployments are just a stall for time. Fushi Empire, the Desert Oasis Palace. People were constantly coming in and out, passing on information and news. Royal guards were running back and forth, their blood-soaked blades drawing a terrifying trail on the ground. Everyone pretended not to see this. As per the Emperor's orders, the officials had all arrived at the Desert Oasis Palace. At this time, Empress was issuing orders one after another. All the officials who were pro-war and close to the Emperor were immediately convicted of treason by Empress. The royal guards were arresting people from their rooms and executing them on the spot. The purge had begun. The conference room. Empress was being personally protected by the Hunter Association's hitmen, standing a distance away from the officials as she carefully listened to the situation. She simply stood there, quickly and efficiently taking care of military and national affairs. This was a very strange scene. The hitmen who were experts in killing were responsible for protecting Empress. The royal guards who were supposed to protect the emperor and empress were now responsible for killing. Verona Empress issued another order. Her hollow brain suddenly lit up by itself. An electronic voice came. "This is Iron Shroud. Your Highness Empress, please take a look." There wasn't a direct report, so this must be a secret. Empress looked down. 2 lines of text appeared on the hollow brain. His Majesty the Emperor's vital signs have disappeared. Confirmed death. The war is still ongoing. Your Highness Verona, please take command of the 3 armies. Empress was stunned. She turned her back on the crowd and slowly walked towards the Emperor's throne. She scrunched up her face, her originally beautiful facial features scrunched up as if she was desperately trying to control some kind of voice. She trembled and took deep breaths, trying to remain calm. When Empress sat down on the Fushi Emperor's throne and faced the officials again, her face was completely expressionless. Everyone was watching this scene, trying to guess the meaning behind Empress's actions. They suddenly heard something. His Majesty is no longer here. Empress said calmly. The entire meeting hall fell silent. After the huge shock, people quickly weighed the pros and cons of the bad news. Those who could enter the meeting hall at this time were all on Empress's side. With the Emperor gone, who could contend against Empress? There was no such person in the current empire. The officials all had a look of joy in their eyes, but they couldn't help but pretend to be sorrowful. The 2 emotions mixed together made for an indescribably comical sight. Emperor spoke to Iron Shroud on the hollow brain and ordered, "I order the 3 armies to remain on standby, cease all active attacks. Furthermore, immediately request to speak to the Freedom Federation's president." All the officials and guards went silent. Only her voice could be heard in the entire meeting hall. Very quickly, the call went through. "Sir President, how are you?" "That's right. This was Fushi's fault. Fortunately, it didn't cause too much damage. The culprit has paid the appropriate price. Yes, he has left this world. I want peace. What about you?" The front line. Beep, 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 beep. Zhang Pei Jia's communicator was ringing in a frenzy. "Put me through," he shouted. "Order. Remain on standby. Cease all active attacks." Zhang Pei Jia immediately opened a cover and pressed a red button. Bam! The heavily damaged black armor finally fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Pei Jia was knocked out of the armor and rolled on the ground. "I surrender," he shouted at the green armor that was still in perfect condition. The metallic fist was only an arm's length away from him. The green armor abruptly stopped. The intense wind pressure forced Zhang Pei Jia to take a few steps back. "Surrender? As a soldier, you dare to challenge me to a life or death battle and still surrender?" The martial saint's voice carried a bit of frigid killing intent. "I'm Empress's subordinate, under orders to stall for time and prevent the war from erupting. Right now, Iron Shroud has given the order to stop the war," Zhang Pei Jia quickly replied. He didn't dare to be displeased. As long as the martial saint showed even the slightest bit of doubt, he would immediately attack and deal with him with a series of killing blows. "Verona, Empress's subordinate. So that's how it is." The martial saint's emotional voice came from the dark green armor. The martial saint's killing intent instantly disappeared. "So the reason he fought with me was to stall for time between the 2 armies. His opponent had withstood his storm-like attacks all the way until the moment of dawn. Not a single soldier was truly involved in the war, and no one was sacrificed. However, is that really the case?" While Zhang Zongyang was thinking, a message came from his hollow brain. The president himself had sent him a message. Only 5 words. "The war is over." Following that, impartial goddess arrangements were displayed on the screen. As Zhang Zongyang looked at the screen, a smile slowly crept onto his face. He pressed a button and the green armor's hatch opened. Zhang Zongyang jumped out. He looked at Zhang Pei Jiao on the ground, smiled, and gently spoke. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. If that's the case, then you're a true hero. The martial saint reached his hand out to the marshal. The marshal took the martial saint's hand and stood up. I don't really care about being a hero, but I really did almost lose my life, Zhang Pei Jia sighed. The martial saint smiled. Because of your stalling, not a single person from either country died. I'm sure this day will go down in history, as long as you don't scold me about this again and again. I'll be thankful, Zhang Pei Jia said. I won't scold you like that. As the marshal of the empire, you're not foolishly loyal. You have a clear understanding and judgment of war. That's quite admirable. Zhang Zongyang spoke with a serious expression. Then, you can't scold me about my smoking either, Zhang Pei Jia said. Smoking? Why would I care about your smoking? Please go ahead, Zhang Zongyang was surprised. That's good. Zhang Pei Jia was finally satisfied. He reached his hand behind his head and pulled. A human skin mask fell off, revealing Zhang Yongho's original appearance. He lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and complained, That bullshit marshal. He's as stubborn as a donkey. I might as well do it myself instead of trying to convince him. Marshal Saint Zhang Zongyang opened his mouth wide. But the martial saint quickly squinted his eyes, exuding killing intent. Zhang Yongho felt something wasn't right, looked up at him for a second, then turned to run. The martial saint's angry roar came from behind him. Little bastard, you dare to try anything funny. Stop right there. Chapter 397. The capital's outskirts. Gu Qingshan and the black cloak skeleton stood facing each other in the air. Gu Qingshan suddenly noticed lines of glowing text appearing in his retina. Quest completed. You've stopped the Fuxi Emperor's next step in his plan. The human world situation has been stabilized. The frozen hell spread has been greatly slowed. Quest reward. Huang Quan's reinforcements have been informed of the human world situation and are now speeding up. Description. Huang Quan's reinforcements will soon arrive in the human world to help you fight against the frozen hell. Gu Qingshan clenched her fist tightly and calmed down. The quest is done. This means there aren't too many deaths. Who would have thought the war would be stopped with the Fuxi Emperor's death? Seems like quite a few people are doing everything they can to stop this calamity. He turned his gaze to the opposite side. The black cloaked skeleton was sitting there, placing the Emperor's skull on the side of the ice throne. As soon as the skull was placed, frost immediately crawled up the skull and enveloped it. The ice throne began to emit a frigid air. The black cloaked skeleton patted the throne in satisfaction and muttered, Descendants of my bloodline, you've all returned to me in the end. This is enough to comfort your souls, you? It was now that Gu Qingshan noticed that there were a few dozen skulls neatly arranged in the middle of the ice throne. According to the black cloaked skeleton, these skulls are the Fuxi Emperors? What a twisted and cruel truth. As Gu Qingshan looked at the black cloaked skeleton, her eyes slowly turned cold. The black cloaked skeleton finally looked up at Gu Qingshan. Although I wasn't here just now, you were able to win against my descendant. So you must have some merits, the black cloaked skeleton said. Such a simple sentence, but coming from its mouth, it gave off an indescribable sense of strangeness. There was an irrepressible desire in his voice, just like wanting to eat. Gu Qingshan asked, Are you the Fuxi Emperor who founded the Fuxi Empire? You know me? Ah, that's right. Who doesn't know me in this world? In history, you seem to have never been defeated. In the end, you died of old age. Gu Qingshan recalled. Speaking of this, the black cloaked skeleton paused for a moment. Those were his glorious years. The black cloaked skeleton took out a cigar from somewhere, lit it, and put it in his mouth. The flame on the cigar flickered. The skeleton exhaled a mouthful of smoke. What a wonderful smell, the skeleton muttered. This scene was somewhat comical. Looking at him, Gu Qingshan felt a chill down his spine. Others might not know, but he knew the truth. After eating human blood and flesh, the dead could feel the world again for a certain period of time. How many people did it eat? Where are the souls of those people? Yes, in the world of the living, there was no one who could stop me. The black-cloaked skeleton breathed out another mouthful of smoke and sighed. This is the tragedy of humanity. Even if you become the strongest, you can only slowly walk towards extinction in the tide of time. What does a soul taste like? Gu Qingshan suddenly asked. The black-cloaked skeleton was surprised. For a living person to ask such a question, could it be that he knows something? The dead have no sense of taste, the black-cloaked skeleton muttered. But when a soul enters your mouth, you will feel its struggle, its despair and unwillingness. When you swallow it, you will feel a sense of power in your body. This power is clear and distinct, letting you know that you've become a bit stronger. Becoming stronger is the most wonderful taste of all. The black-cloaked skeleton laughed heartily. Gu Qingshan calmly listened and pondered. A soul that you ate shouldn't have dissipated, right? After all, you were once a living being made of 3 souls and 7 spirits. The black-cloaked skeleton paused. He carefully observed Gu Qingshan. This young man, not only was he able to win against his descendant, but he was also able to stop the war between the 2 countries. A truly talented person. If I can make this person work for me, not only will I be able to reduce a lot of resistance, I can also speed up my plan. The black-cloaked skeleton was a bit more patient now. It slowly spoke. As the dead, I can't make them dissipate, but their souls will forever struggle in my body in pain, while their power will be used by me. As the dead, you can't make your soul dissipate? Gu Qingshan immediately asked, which means there really is an entity that can eat souls. Is that right? The black-cloaked skeleton looked at her and slowly became serious. This is a sharp person. This person knows what's important. Every time he asks a question, it's always straight to the point. The black-cloaked skeleton replied, That's not important. What's important is that we've come to the human realm. This is an unprecedented event in Huang Quan. Unprecedented. Indeed, unprecedented. Which means something really did happen to Huang Quan. What exactly happened? Gu Qingshan asked. The black-cloaked skeleton lightly shook his head and spoke. I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. Please go ahead first. Living people shouldn't ask about Huang Quan. That will destroy all of your beliefs and hopes. And the second? Gu Qingshan asked, feeling a bit regretful. If the other party doesn't want to tell me the truth, I won't be able to grasp the true situation of the hell of Huang Quan. Second, you are a person with a bright future. If you're willing to become my subordinate, when the frozen hell descends upon the human realm, I will convert you into a powerful dead person of the frozen hell, according to your contributions. Gu Qingshan smiled and said, Just now you ate your own descendant right in front of me. How would I dare to follow you? The skeleton replied, That was their honor. Gu Qingshan replied, They didn't do it willingly. Failed descendants are not worthy of following me. Why not? The black-cloaked skeleton spoke in a low voice. Whether it's the human realm or hell, only by going through the baptism of the strong can the strong solidify their rule. What's wrong with that? The black-cloaked skeleton excitedly clenched his bony fingers, exuding thick gray fog from his body. I brought the entire frozen hell back with me. There are countless wonderful souls here that will allow me to grow stronger step by step. As a human, if you follow me, you will receive unprecedented rewards. Otherwise, the black-cloaked skeleton raised the ice sword in his hand. His threat was clear. You really use a sword? Gu Qingshan's eyes lit up. Gu Qingshan suddenly became excited. Could it be Huang Quan also has swordsmanship? Gu Qingshan has never seen it before. He didn't do anything. 2 swords silently appeared in the air, one on the left and one on the right, standing by his side. The black-cloaked skeleton went silent briefly, then spoke in a low voice. You're courting death. Don't blame others. He stood up. The ice throne instantly turned into a mass of icy fog. This fog lingered around the black-cloaked skeleton's hand, coiling around the ice sword. Feel despair, the black-cloaked skeleton muttered. The ice sword let out a sharp screech. In a split second, screams of pain, curses, cries, begging, howls, screams, and moans of pain resounded at the same time. These sounds filled the void of space, making anyone who heard them feel as if they've fallen into hell. Gu Qing Shan's vision darkened, as if she was about to be pulled into a terrifying place. A split second later, a seven-colored glow appeared from his body. From the void of space, a rain of flowers and various auspicious beasts descended. 6 guardian deities of virtue, wielding various weapons, appeared. The 6 guardian deities surrounded Gu Qing Shan and shouted in unison, "Ho!" Gu Qing Shan's spirit was lifted. Chapter 398. Following the chanting of the 6 guardian deities, the icy sword let out a loud howl of pain. In a split second, the hundreds of thousands of howls of pain stopped. By the time the 6 guardian gods disappeared, the ice sword no longer made any sound. The black-cloaked skeleton's expression changed and spoke in a gloomy tone. "You dare to hurt my sword. Seems like I'll have to spend a bit more effort, but that's fine. Your soul will compensate me." He clasped his hands together. Following the black-cloaked skeleton's actions, everything in the world became silent. The dark clouds and cold rain that covered the capital's outskirts disappeared. A mass of grayish-yellow mist quickly rose. Gu Qing Shan scowled. Something powerful must have appeared to be able to interfere with reality and cause such a phenomenon. I didn't think it would have such an ability. He raised his guard. The black-cloaked skeleton opened his hands. A drop of water silently floated in his hands. The dark yellow drop of water was covered in mist, giving off an indescribable sense of fear. The black-cloaked skeleton carefully held the drop of water. It took me over 1,000 years to get at the black-cloaked skeleton couldn't help but sigh. Its tone was filled with an unprecedented sense of pride. In the entire hell of Huang Quan, no dead person has ever obtained a drop of forgetting river water like I did. As the black-cloaked skeleton spoke, the endless water vapor behind him condensed into a large river. It was using the power of water of the 5 elements to manifest a large river that stretched across the sky. The black-cloaked skeleton sent the drop of forgetting river water into the large river behind him. The entire river turned a faint yellow color. It looked a bit like the forgetting river, but much weaker. At this moment, the 2 swords next to Gu Qing Shan both moved. The Chaoyin sword seemed to be sensing something. The earth sword spoke. "Be careful. Any living being that comes into contact with the forgetting river water will lose all of their memories. This is the law of the samsara. Losing all of their memories would turn them into a defenseless idiot. The black-cloaked skeleton could easily take their lives." Gu Qing Shan felt tense and replied, "I understand." The black-cloaked skeleton moved its finger. The great yellow river immediately encircled it. With the forgetting river's water forming this kind of defense, the black-cloaked skeleton was already in an invincible position. The black-cloaked skeleton excitedly and madly spoke. "This is a killer technique that I specifically prepared for the human realm. You can die now." It waved its hand. The dim yellow river rushed towards Gu Qing Shan with a monstrous momentum. Gu Qing Shan flew backwards. The black-robed skeleton laughed loudly and said, "What are you running for? It's useless. The speed of this river is not inferior to your flying sword." Gu Qing Shan retreated even faster. At this time, the Chaoyin sword suddenly let out an urgent woo-woo sound. "Hold you? What are you doing?" Gu Qing Shan asked curiously. In Shunwu world, he once obtained a thaumaturgy called telepathy. Telepathy allows you to naturally understand the meaning of the artifact's spirit. Up until now, Gu Qing Shan was able to understand whatever the Chaoyin sword was trying to convey, except for the Chaoyin sword's thaumaturgy passing even sea of bitterness. Regarding this thaumaturgy, Gu Qing Shan couldn't understand what the Chaoyin sword was trying to convey. But now, since the Chaoyin sword wanted to fight, Gu Qing Shan grabbed its hilt. At the same time, a notification popped up on the War God UI. The Chaoyin sword is requesting to use your soul points, a total of 100. Would you like to allow it to use your soul points? This was the same as before. When the Fuxi Emperor crushed the ice orb, a flood came down from the sky. The Chaoyin sword used Gu Qing Shan's soul points to help it avoid the flood. That time, The Chaoyin sword used 10 soul points, but now it's asking for 100 soul points. Gu Qingshan didn't hesitate and answered right away, "Allow." A new notification popped up. The Chaoyin sword has received 100 soul points. An invisible gust of wind drifted around Gu Qingshan, extending from his body to the Chaoyin sword. The Chaoyin sword's tip was trembling. It seems to be preparing for something. The Yellow River was approaching, almost catching up to Gu Qingshan's retreating speed. The river was about to reach him. The intense wind was already causing Gu Qingshan to lose his balance. Gu Qingshan had no choice but to retreat as fast as he could. The black-cloaked skeleton crossed its arms, slightly tilting its head. From the looks of it, it seems to be enjoying what it's seeing. Suddenly, the black-cloaked skeleton raised both of its hands. A giant wave rose from the river, blocking out the sun. "Die!" the black-cloaked skeleton roared. The giant wave came crashing down. The Chaoyin sword suddenly let out an explosive roar towards the wave. Gu Qingshan understood what it meant. Gritting his teeth, he raised the Chaoyin sword and pointed it at the wave. "Fine, if I can't do it, I'll just run away at the last moment. I need to believe in my sword first." Gu Qingshan only had enough time to think that before the giant wave blocked out all the light from the sky, bringing darkness with it as it crashed down. Boom! The rushing wave first hit the tip of the Chaoyin sword. Then it turned towards Gu Qingshan. No, there's no then. In a split second, the raging river was sucked into the tip of the Chaoyin sword, disappearing without a trace. The sky-covering river was sucked dry by the Chaoyin sword in a single breath's worth of time. All the supernatural phenomena in the sky also disappeared. The dark clouds and cold rain once again appeared. Gu Qingshan was stunned, still holding his sword. The black, cloaked skeleton. Gu Qingshan. The Chaoyin sword jumped a bit in Gu Qingshan's hand. Then it jumped again. Then it started to jump rhythmically. Gu Qingshan's heart tightened, lowered his voice, and asked, "What is it?" While the Chaoyin sword was jumping, it also let out a woo-woo sound. "Treasure, treasure, treasure, treasure. This is a treasure." That's what it means. Gu Qingshan could feel the Chaoyin sword's joy, which means it actually ate an entire river. Gu Qingshan silently thought. That river contained a drop of forgetting river water. Forgetting river water contains the power of the samsara laws, so it's naturally a treasure. Seeing how much the black, cloaked skeleton treasured it, that drop of forgetting river water must be extremely hard to obtain. But the Chaoyin sword managed to steal the forgetting river water. That's a bit. The black cloaked skeleton seemed to have just woken up from a dream and shouted, "Give me back the forgetting river water!" Gu Qingshan puffed out her chest and spoke with a stern expression. "Where is this forgetting river water? Why haven't I seen it before?" "That is a treasure that I spent over 1,000 years to obtain." The skeleton gritted his teeth. "Very well. I'm going to make sure you die without a proper burial." He pointed at the ice sword and shouted, "Skeleton grudge." Balls of icy white mist erupted from the ice sword. Boom, 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 boom. 10 armored skeletons with crowns on their heads appeared from the white mist in 2 rows. Countless black mist condensed into countless ghostly figures that surrounded the skeletons, howling and howling. The black-cloaked skeleton let out an eerie laugh. "These aren't clones, they're Fushi Empire's emperors. They've all fought their way to the top through blood," and Steel's voice became oppressive. "If you know what's good for you, give me back the forgetting river water. That way I'll leave your corpse intact." This was the black-cloaked skeleton's strongest trump card. With these monsters in the past, he was always able to survive in the frozen hell. "Go kill him, then slaughter the entire city. I want the souls of every living person," the black-cloaked skeleton roared. "Soul! Soul!" The skeletal demons of resentment roared hoarsely in unison. Gu Qingshan looked at the 20 skeleton grudge demons. Each of the grudge demons was holding a different weapon in their hands. They must have all sorts of powerful abilities. Behind these skeleton grudge demons, the black-cloaked skeleton wielded his icy sword, waiting for a chance to strike. They were really going to start from here, kill their way through, kill him, and then kill the entire capital. The 20 skeleton grudge all roared at once. One of the skeleton grudge demons suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of Gu Qing Shan. It swung its giant axe at Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan raised the Chao Yin's sword, parried it, then swung forward again. The sword passed through the skeleton grudge demon's neck. A black mist was carried by the blade of the sword, flying out from the skeleton grudge demon's neck. The skeleton grudge demon's head was still on its neck. It roared and swung at Gu Qing Shan again. Gu Qing Shan scanned the surroundings with his inner sight, only to see the 20 skeleton grudge demons rushing towards him. He hurriedly retreated. The skeleton grudge demons are already classified as demonic gods. Living beings definitely can't win against them. The black-cloaked skeleton gritted his teeth. I'll let them skin you alive right now, then slowly look for my forgetting river water while retreating. Gu Qing Shan tried to think of a way to deal with it. The black-cloaked skeleton's words were also a clue. Living beings can't win against demonic gods. If I can't even hurt them with every strike, then I'm sure they won't be easy to deal with. While he was thinking, a line of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. The Earth Sword requests to absorb your soul points. If you agree, the Earth Sword will use your soul points at a rate of 10 soul points per second. Because you're recognized by the Earth Sword as its wielder, it won't drain all your soul points during the process of using your soul points. Your safety will be guaranteed. Do you agree? Gu Qing Shan glanced at it and muttered, "Why are you doing this as well?" The Earth Sword's heavy voice came. "These things are indeed about to become the lowest demon lord. How about you release your soul points and let me communicate with them?" "You want to communicate with them?" Gu Qing Shan asked. The Earth Sword answered with a resounding voice. "Indeed, if they were only dead people, then it's fine, but since they've become demon lords, I can counter them for some reason." Gu Qing Shan suddenly recalled the system's description of the Earth Sword. Earth Sword weighs 86,370,000 tons, has the spirit thaumaturgy. Bear your own weight. This sword was a divine weapon used to offer sacrifices to the world in the age of old, capable of communicating with the divinities. It had even communicated with the Huang Quan Hellspawn before. The 20 skeleton grudge demons flew forward. Gu Qing Shan continued to retreat. The black-cloaked skeleton laughed. "It took me a long time and a lot of effort to turn them into the skeletal grudge demons. They are the reason for me to become a king." Gu Qing Shan ignored it and checked her combat record and soul points. Remaining soul points. The Chao Yin sword just used up 100 soul points. After killing so many clones, my soul points only increased by 1. 6. There's no time to think about that right now. So Gu Qing Shan answered right away. "I agreed to pay soul points." A calculator appeared on the War God UI. His soul power was disappearing at a rate of 10 points per second. "With your soul points, I can finally unleash my full power." The Earth Sword spoke with a resounding voice. "What should I do?" Gu Qing Shan loudly asked. "Do what you usually do," the Earth Sword replied. Gu Qing Shan stopped in midair, then turned around and charged back. Seeing this from afar, the black-cloaked skeleton chuckled. "The body of a demonic lord. Humans can't do anything to it." The skeleton grudge demons all raised their weapons to receive the enemy. Gu Qing Shan turned into a large white crescent sword phantom and charged into the horde of skeleton grudges. The sword phantom clashed with the skeleton grudges' weapons. A blinding sword phantom flew through the sky, flying far away. The skeleton grudges that faced the sword phantom didn't even seem to exist, unable to stop it at all. All of a sudden, all the skeleton grudges screamed in fear. They stood stiffly in midair, their bodies emitting wisps of gray mist as they plummeted to the ground. The white crescent sword phantom also disappeared. Gu Qing Shan and the Earth Sword reappeared. A gust of wind blew past. The 20-crowned skeletal grudge devils turned into ashes and dissipated in the wind. Only innumerable sprites of light remained, silently dancing around the Earth Sword. Half of the sprites of light were absorbed into the Earth Sword, while the other half entered between Gu Qing Shan's eyebrows. The Earth Sword let out a satisfied ring. Communication complete, it spoke with a solemn tone. That's impressive, Gu Qingshan muttered. They can't even be considered as the lowest level of demonic lords. Of course, they couldn't stop our combined power, the Earth Sword spoke in a low voice. The soul points consumption on the War God UI had stopped. The entire battle only took 5 seconds, which was 50 soul power points. A few lines of notification popped up. You and the Earth Sword have split the spoils of war evenly. You've obtained 100 soul points, leftover soul points, that's a great deal. But as a demonic lord, why did the skeleton grudges give so little soul points? Perhaps guessing what Gu Qingshan was thinking, the War God UI explained. These monsters are a bit weak, but they can't even be considered as the lowest level of demonic lords. Silence all around. Gu Qingshan noticed something was off and looked up at the black cloaked skeleton. His inner sight had been focused on the black cloaked skeleton, but he didn't see any reaction from it. The black cloaked skeleton stood still in midair. The skeleton didn't move at all. The skeleton slowly raised its hand, pointing at Gu Qingshan. My skeleton grudge, give it back. Gu Qingshan spoke with a serious expression. I'm sorry, I didn't see any skeleton grudges. The black cloaked skeleton trembled. Chapter 399. The black cloaked skeleton stood still for a few breaths worth of time before regaining his composure. To conquer the human realm, he spent a lot of effort to prepare 3 killer moves, but they were all either countered or countered. The black cloaked skeleton felt a bit dizzy. Destroying my demon puppet, stealing my treasure. The black cloaked skeleton gritted his teeth. His sleeves began to flutter as his body expanded. Like a giant floating in the air, the black cloaked skeleton charged forward. I'm going to kill you myself. The black cloaked skeleton roared. Gu Qingshan asked in a low voice, Can you deal with him? This is a normal dead person. My divinity is useless. The Earth Sword replied with a resounding voice. Normal dead person. All right, I'll do it, Gu Qingshan said. Gu Qingshan changed the War God title to UG General. UG General. Equipping this title grants you the exclusive skill, Quick Attack, Intermediate. Quick Attack. Intermediate users' attack speed increased by 15%. He formed a hand seal. The Chaoing sword appeared next to him to protect him. The Earth Sword turned into a blurred image and disappeared without a trace. Boom! The black cloaked skeleton was beaten into a black shadow that was sent flying backwards. You go as well, Gu Qingshan shouted in a low voice. The Chaoing sword flashed and disappeared. With a sharp whistling sound, the flying sword stabbed towards the black shadow. The Earth Sword also sped up. The 2 swords danced in the air, turning into blurred images as they weaved back and forth. Like a sieve, the black, cloaked skeleton's body trembled from being stabbed by the 2 swords. What kind of swordsmanship is this? The black cloaked skeleton was both shocked and angry. The flying swords didn't stop at all. They were so fast that he couldn't dodge them. The black cloaked skeleton gritted his teeth, turned into a gray fog, and charged at Gu Qingshan. His speed was so fast that he managed to escape from the 2 swords. In the blink of an eye, the black cloaked skeleton was already in front of Gu Qingshan. Brat, he roared. An ice sword appeared in his hand, carrying a frigid aura as it slashed towards Gu Qingshan. You want to kill me with this kind of sword technique? As Gu Qingshan reached his hand out, the Chaoing sword quickly changed direction and fell into his hand. Holding the Chaoing sword, he charged forward. The 2 swords went back and forth. In less than 10 moves, Gu Qingshan's sword was deflected. The Chaoing sword stabbed forward, piercing the man's neck. The black cloaked skeleton was pushed back by the momentum of the sword. He let out an angry howl and let the sword pierce deep into his neck as he continued to charge forward. The black cloaked skeleton's entire body turned into a cloud of mist, leaving only a wide grin on its face. It opened its mouth wide enough to swallow Gu Qingshan whole. His entire mouth was filled with densely packed teeth, looking extremely horrifying. Gu Qingshan charged straight into the black cloaked skeleton's mouth. The black-robed skeleton bit down. Gu Shan was nowhere to be seen, but she suddenly appeared behind him. The earth sword swung at the black cloaked skeleton's head. Secret art, silver star. 5 thread-like sword phantoms sliced the black cloaked skeleton's head into mush. Black blood splattered everywhere. The black cloaked skeleton rolled around in the air in pain. Gu Shan quickly formed a hand seal and shouted, "Attack!" The Chaoyin sword took that chance and slashed the black cloaked skeleton 7 times in a row. In the blink of an eye, a lightning dragon leapt out from the Chaoyin sword, opened its mouth, and bit the black cloaked skeleton. Secret art, 7 stars, flowing dragon. Arg! The black cloaked skeleton screamed in pain. Lightning itself carries the power of smiting, so it deals more damage to it than normal attacks. Gu Shan took this chance to take out a spirit-replenishing pill and swallowed it. The 2 flying swords flew back and forth. Their power was unparalleled, but also consumed a lot of energy. Right now, he's fighting as a sword saint, but the way he uses the flying swords is still a bit rusty, so he needs to use hand seals as support. Gu Shan looked at the lightning dragon. Let's see if this 7 stars flowing dragon can kill him. The lightning in the sky finally disappeared. Why? Why is there such a swordsmanship? The black cloaked skeleton clutched his stomach, screaming hysterically. There was a large hole in his stomach. When the black cloaked skeleton looked at his hand, it was covered in gray blood. "You've pissed me off." The black cloaked skeleton was about to go mad. Using his bloodied hand, he wrote a few mystical characters in the air. An eerie gust of wind silently appeared. "Hellspawn of Huang Quan, come help me." An eerie gust of wind blew, followed by some small noises, as if something was coming. The earth sword flew up and spun around in the air. Suddenly, the earth sword gave off an invisible aura. A heavy voice as heavy as a mountain came from the earth sword, echoing across the entire battlefield. "All Tianma, demons, monsters, ghosts, and demons, get close and die." Ho! An intense gust of wind blew. The invisible shockwave turned into a gust of wind, howling back and forth. In a split second, the gust of wind scattered. All sounds returned to silence. No more sounds could be heard from the void of space. The Hellspawn was scared away. The black cloaked skeleton stared at the earth sword. Fear and desire intertwined on his face. "Such a powerful sword. How could a bug like you wield it?" he begrudgingly spoke. "Bug?" Gu Shan asked. "That's right. If it weren't for this sword, you would be nothing," the black cloaked skeleton answered. "You need to get to know me again," Gu Shan said. Poof! A sword pierced through the black cloaked skeleton's stomach. Chaoyin sword. At the very next moment, the Chaoyin sword disappeared. A giant white crescent sword phantom appeared from the black cloaked skeleton's waist. Shadow shift. Gu Shan's body turned into the secret art crescent beheader, cutting the black cloaked skeleton in half. The 2 halves of the skeleton's body were blown away by the intense sword wind, spilling blood while tumbling in the air. Gu Shan formed another hand seal. The Chaoyin sword chased after it, turning into a torrent of sword phantoms. Secret art, torrent. Countless sword phantoms slashed through the black cloaked skeleton's lower body like a tidal wave, slicing it into nothingness. In the air, only the black cloaked skeleton's upper body was left. The black cloaked skeleton watched as its lower body was sliced away by the sword phantoms. This was a very strange feeling. He's never had such a fighting experience before. But at this time, he calmed down. "I've never seen anyone fight like you. Not even in hell," the black cloaked skeleton spoke in a low voice, as if he didn't care that he only had half his body left. "We can continue to get to know each other better." Gu Shan raised her sword and said. The black cloaked skeleton's strongest weapons were actually the forgetting river water and the 20 demonic spirits. The forgetting river water was drunk by the Chaoyin sword. The 20 demonic spirits were completely countered by the earth sword's hand. The black cloaked skeleton himself wasn't that strong. "Next time we meet, I will definitely get rid of you," the black cloaked skeleton declared. "You think I'll let you go?" Gu Shan asked. The Chowing sword and Earth's sword hovered in the air, circling around him. The black-cloaked skeleton showed a strange smile. I can die countless times, but you'll lose even if you die once in hell. There are countless dead like me, or even those who are several times stronger than me, and they all have immortal bodies. How do you plan to deal with us? He asked. Gu Shan went silent. The dead can't die. That's a fact. The black-cloaked skeleton spoke. The final victor will belong to the dead, to the hell of Huang Quan saying so. He reached his hand out and twisted off his own head. He disappeared in front of Gu Shan. The black-cloaked skeleton couldn't be seen in the sky anymore. Only a gray fog lingering in the air before dispersing. Gu Shan was stunned. He killed himself. The black-cloaked skeleton used this method to instantly leave this area. That way, he'll return to the frozen hell and use the ice there to heal his wounds. Once all his wounds are healed, he'll come out to cause trouble again. Gu Shan couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 400. When the dead are killed, they fall into a deep slumber, only to wake up again after recovering. This is an unsolvable cycle. What's even more worrisome is that the black-cloaked skeleton is already in the human world. When it dies, it will definitely appear somewhere in the ice of the human world. If left alone, as soon as it wakes up, it will definitely continue to kill and devour souls in order to become stronger. This really is a headache. The frozen hell has only just begun. From now on, countless dead will descend upon the human world. A bit later, the monsters from the Giant Era, Fiend-kind Era, and Chaos Era will also descend. No matter how strong a person is, they won't be able to deal with so many undying monsters. Gu Shan shook her head and dispelled her hand seals. The Earth Sword and Chao-ing Sword also disappeared. They were hiding in the void of space, ready to reappear whenever Gu Shan needs them. Gu Shan said, "Impartial goddess, I didn't have time to ask just now. Tell me the latest situation." The president appeared just in time to reach a verbal agreement with Fuxi Empire's Verona Empress. What agreement? Due to the appearance of the frozen hell, humanity is already at the brink of extinction. The two countries have decided to immediately stop fighting. Gu Shan nodded, then asked, "What are the casualties?" "Two mechs were damaged, that's all?" Gu Shan was surprised. "Yes, sir." Impartial goddess explained the details of what happened. Gu Shan smiled. "That's good," he said. His phone suddenly rang. Gu Shan took a look to see that it was Verona Empress. As soon as he picked up, Empress asked for his opinion on something. Gu Shan thought for a bit and expressed her support. As soon as he hung up, Impartial goddess immediately spoke. "Sir, the president has been paying close attention to your battle. He wishes to meet with you. Very well. It's about time we meet." Saying so, Gu Shan flew towards the president's office. This time, I'll finally be able to see the real president. A few minutes later, the president's office that was cut in half. After many twists and turns, Gu Shan and the president meet again. "This is a dangerous building. If it collapses, you'll have to save me." The president laughed. "It won't collapse, sir," said Gu Shan with a smile. The president motioned for him to sit on the sofa. "Coffee or tea?" "Tea. This time, we can finally have a good chat." "That's right. It really wasn't easy. Who would have thought the Fuxi Emperor would make such a decision?" The president's expression turned serious as he asked, "Is the Frost Hell truly unbeatable?" Gu Shan sighed and said, "That's true. That's the world of the dead. From the perspective of life and death, they've all died once, so they won't die again." The president continued. "Even if that's the case, we can't just sit here and wait for death," the president quickly said. "We need to unite all countries, throw away all conflicts and fight for the survival of humanity." Gu Shan replied. "That's right. Her Highness Verona is about to be crowned the Empress. You can discuss this first. Once Fuxi and the Federation reach an agreement, everything else will be much easier." The president also nodded. "According to the Federation's analysis, there's a high chance that she'll be crowned. I'll have to go see her right away. What do you want to talk to her about?" Gu Shan asked. The president replied, I want to immediately convene an international conference to distribute the genetic serum around the world, giving every human a chance to awaken. Only when everyone is strong will humanity have hope. Gu Qingshan looked at the president and suddenly smiled. I'm sure you're the real president. Sir President, I actually have a few thoughts about human cultivation that I've been wanting to tell you. The president appeared serious and said, Please go ahead. Half a day later, the mountaintop mansion. A group of 7 to 8 chefs left. Gu Qingshan, Zhang Yongho, Yifei Li, and Liao Xing sat around a table. It was rare for them to sit down and have a proper dinner. Although Zhang Yongho's face was a bit bruised and swollen, he didn't stop smiling. Does it still hurt? Gu Qingshan asked. So what if it hurts? I've already earned money anyways, Zhang Yongho replied. Verona Empress was generous. Zhang Yongho earned quite a bit from this business deal. The only thing that wasn't perfect was getting beaten up by the martial saint. On Zhang Yongho's right side, Liao Xing crossed his arms and stood still. The chopsticks in front of him flew out by themselves to grab a mouthful of food. As Liao Xing chewed on the vegetables, he suddenly snapped his fingers. Bam! A bottle of champagne was opened. The bottle flew in front of him and refilled his glass. Not bad, Zhang Yongho praised him. Of course, with my brain, cultivation is nothing but a simple matter. Liao Xing continued to grab food from afar. Gu Qingshan looked at Yi Fei Li. Why didn't you call your girlfriend out for a drink? He asked. I didn't tell her to come. What's the matter? We're all men. What's she doing here? Yi Fei Li puffed out her chest. Ding dong. The clock on the wall suddenly rang. You guys eat? I'm already full, Yi Fei Li said. He immediately stood up and ran away like a wisp of smoke. With a bam, Yi Fei Li's door was slammed shut. He didn't even eat a single bite. How did he get full? Gu Qingshan was surprised. It's because it's time, Liao Xing smirked. For the next hour, he'll have to say some sweet nothings to his girlfriend. Zhang Yongho opened a bottle of strong liquor, poured it for Gu Qingshan, and said emotionally, Let's not talk about him. I have to thank you for this business deal. Gu Qingshan received the glass. No need to thank me. You've also helped me a lot. The two of them clinked glasses and down all at once. Gu Qingshan's hollow brain suddenly lit up. Sir, please take a look at the news, Impartial Goddess said. Gu Qingshan turned on the screen. On the screen was the Fuxi Empire's desert palace. The commentator quickly reported, Today, Verona Empress met with the Federation's president at the desert palace. The president expressed his support for Verona Empress's decision to be crowned empress. Both sides hope to further expand there. The frozen hell was slowly descending on this world in an unstoppable manner. But the Fuxi Emperor's scheme was successfully stopped. The spread of the frost on the entire planet was greatly slowed down. Other than that, all countries had abolished the death penalty. All hospitals were free of charge. As long as anyone is sick, they can receive treatment right away. A few small countries that had conflicts with each other couldn't help, but put away their weapons and made peace. At this moment, humanity was united like never before. The human world's offensive and defensive alliance had been established. All the country's top brass had been informed of the Frozen Hell's invasion. This time, even the Nine Lords didn't hold them back. Although the Holy Church's attitude was cold, they still expressed their willingness to form an alliance. Zhang Yongho looked at the news and smiled. From now on, I can't call her Your Highness anymore. I'll have to call her Majesty. He was in a very good mood. Due to his excellent performance as a bodyguard, he had gained Verona Empress's trust. Both sides agreed that there would be more opportunities to work together in the future. The Hunter Guild also became famous throughout the underground world because of this incident. After watching the news, Gu Qingshan nodded in thought. He said, Hao, I need your people to protect the president. The president doesn't have a substitute anymore. Is there a reward? No money, Gu Qingshan answered. Zhang Yongho's expression immediately turned sour, lowering his head. Working for nothing again? Not really. I'll personally pick out a scripture for those who are willing to go, Gu Qingshan said. Got it. Zhang Yongho immediately agreed. Ever since he started practicing the scripture that Gu Qingshan gave him, his understanding of the world has become much deeper. Even his God's chosen skill that has been stuck at a bottleneck is showing signs of loosening. It's only been a few days of practice, and it's already so effective. If he keeps on practicing, regarding cultivation and scriptures, Jang Young-ho has already started to place a lot of importance on them. Gu Qing-shan turned around and asked, Liao Xing, have you sorted out the scriptures? They've been sorted out, Liao Xing replied. If that's the case, our bracelets are ready. We're only missing Fushi's Elementalist Awakening Serum, Gu Qing-shan said. Both the God's Chosen Awakening Serum and Martial Potential Serum have been obtained. Only the Elementalist Awakening Serum is left. With these 3 serums, all of humanity will be able to awaken. This world will soon welcome every professionist. Of course, there will be a few who won't be able to awaken, but that won't affect their future. Gu Qing-shan has also prepared over a few thousand scriptures. If they can survive this frozen calamity, this world will usher in rapid growth and development. Impartial Goddess, when is the Emperor's coronation ceremony? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., Gu Qing-shan looked at the time. There's still 11 hours left. The time is just right. He picked up the bottle of liquor and poured a glass for Jang Young-ho, smiling as he asked, Do you have time tonight? For what? To kill, with your strength. Do you still need me to do it? Jang Young-ho was a bit surprised. The founding Fushi Emperor. I let him escape in a moment of carelessness. Even Impartial Goddess can't find him now, Gu Qing-shan answered. All right then, let's go digest our food, Jang Young-ho agreed without hesitation. They clinked glasses. With that settled, Gu Qing-shan could finally relax. He looked at the War God UI. 3 lines of text hovered in the middle of the UI. The Huang Quan reinforcements have been informed of your feat and are now speeding up. They will soon arrive at the human realm to help you fight against the frozen hell. When the Huang Quan reinforcements arrive at the human realm, they will contact you first, arrival countdown. 24 hours, reinforcements will arrive. Gu Qing-shan retracted his gaze and downed the entire glass. He put the glass down on the table and stood up. Chapter 401. Nighttime. The cold rain stopped. Stars filled the sky. The moonlight blurred. The frozen hell was slowly spreading. A 24-hour convenience store. Gu Qing-shan quickly came out. Did you get it? Jang Young-ho stood at the door and asked. The black cat in his arms looked at its neck expectantly. I did, but I really don't understand why it wants to eat durians today, Gu Qing-shan said. Gu Qing-shan carefully raised a durian full of spikes and showed it to the black cat. This was the best durian you could find in the store. The black cat looked at it from top to bottom, then meowed in satisfaction. Jang Young-ho received the durian from him and seriously explained, It's currently pursuing a beautiful fellow. Durians are the taste of that fellow. The 2 of them found a secluded place. Jang Young-ho tapped the ground a bit and put the durian into the hole. Look carefully, a whole durian. It's all yours now, enough for you and her to have a midnight snack, Jang Young-ho said. If it's not enough, come find me any time. I'll definitely buy more for you. Gu Qing-shan patted her chest and said. The 2 of them crouched down in front of the black cat, one fawning over it while the other fawning over it. The black cat looked at the 2 of them, squinted its eyes, and lightly meowed. Seeing that, Jang Young-ho told Gu Qing-shan. You can start looking now, Gu Qing-shan answered right away. I'm looking for a dead person. The black cat covered its nose with its paw. No, don't misunderstand. I'm looking for a person who came back from the dead. He's wearing a black robe, no flesh on his body. Saying so, Gu Qing-shan suddenly formed a hand seal. Light manifested. The black robe skeleton appeared in front of the cat. It's this monster. Can you find it? Gu Qing-shan asked. The black cat stared at the image for a while. It took a few steps, picked up speed, and jumped. In midair, the black cat straightened its body and performed a difficult Pugachev cobra maneuver. What does it mean? Gu Qing-shan asked. It said that we want to fly, Jang Young-ho said. The shuttle passed through the clouds in the night sky and flew steadily under the moonlight. The navigation screen was already turned on, and the global electronic map was displayed in front of the 2 people and the cat. The black cat jumped onto the table and extended its paw at the electronic map. The Western Hemisphere. That's pretty far, Jang Young-ho said. and it's in the middle of the ocean. That's interesting, Gu Qingshan said. The ocean was now a forbidden zone for humans. There were all kinds of giant sea beasts there. Why would the black-cloaked skeleton one go to the ocean? Gu Qingshan was a bit worried and said, Impartial goddess, enter supersonic flight. We need to hurry. Understood, sir. With a loud sonic boom, the shuttle sped up. Zhang Young-ho looked at the map and said, That place isn't too far from Fushi. We can kill him and then go to Monarch Verona's coronation ceremony. Let's hope so, Gu Qingshan said. The shuttle was hovering in the air. The floating ice floats on the surface of the ocean. The moonlight shone down, reflecting off the floating ice like stars. This strange scene was like a galaxy in the middle of the ocean. A few giant sea beasts were wandering around the ocean. After the ocean changed, this was their world. But now, the ice in the ocean was slowly solidifying. The 10-meter-tall sea beasts seemed to have noticed something was wrong and were a bit restless. The sea beasts let out a deafening roar, madly swaying their giant bodies. They hated the floating ice. They didn't know what they were. Indeed, sea beasts have no intelligence. Humanity was becoming more and more adept at dealing with them. Their casualties were also greatly reduced. The man-eater fiends and man-killer fiends were also suppressed. The game of Eternal left in defeat. The human world slowly regained its composure. But these were only the lowest level of calamities within the true apocalypse. And now, the frozen hell had descended. The confidence humanity had just built up to rebuild their homeland was about to crumble in the face of hell. Even in the past life, even the ascended realm players of the human world felt a deep sense of helplessness when faced with the calamities of the apocalypse. Calamities, true calamities, calamities that couldn't even be predicted by human logic. Even the Zishan Young Master's world, which had a cryptic realm cultivator, was on the verge of destruction. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but shake her head as she looked at the scene on the screen. Even though I've gone back in time, will the world I'm in really be able to survive? Perhaps in the destruction of the worlds, this world was just one of the few that remained silent. It lived in silence and died in silence. The black cat suddenly slapped the screen with its paw. The place it was shooting at was a certain part of the sea. What does the black cat mean? Gu Qingshan asked. It said that the target we're looking for is hiding in that part of the ocean, Zhang Young-ho answered. He muttered in confusion. The founding emperor was also an invincible combatant in history. Why would he be hiding in the ocean? Gu Qingshan replied. You think he's a coward, but he probably thinks he's enduring humiliation for the greater good. That's true. Zhang Young-ho lit a cigar and said. Your two swords scared him, Gu Qingshan nodded. At the time, the Earth Sword killed 20 grudge wraiths in a row, scaring the Fushi founding emperor silly. Gu Qingshan suddenly thought of something. The Chaoyin sword was using its mind to communicate with him. Although it couldn't speak, the message it was trying to convey was understandable. All right, go play, don't go too far, Gu Qingshan said. He slowed down the shuttle's speed and opened the window. The Chaoyin sword appeared from the void of space. It was so excited that its body was trembling. As soon as the window opened, it flew out. Below the shuttle was an ocean. The Chaoyin sword dived down. The ocean returned to normal. In Gu Qingshan's senses, the Chaoyin sword was playing around in the ocean. Why would a sword like the ocean so much? Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then understood. The first time she saw the Chaoyin sword's sword spirit, it was hiding in an underground spirit spring. Yesterday, when it was repaired, it also manifested as a stream of water. The Chaoyin sword was the sword that the old gods used to guard the ocean. After countless years, Shunwu world has become a vast land. Now that it's finally able to see the ocean, this sword is naturally very excited. Thinking that, Gu Qingshan decided to let it play around. Time quickly passed. The shuttle arrived at the area of the ocean. Looking at the scene on the screen, neither Gu Qingshan nor Zhang Young-ho said anything. Unlike other areas of the ocean, the water here has already been frozen solid. Zhang Young-ho stood up and said, How about I help you? Gu Qingshan muses, How about we call more people? Zhang Young-ho was a bit surprised, then said, Against a combatant of this level, numbers won't help. I know, but killing him is useless. After a while of hibernation, he'll revive. Then what do you want to do? Jang Young-ho didn't understand. If he's running away, that means he doesn't want to be tied down, right? Right. Chapter 402. Jang Young-ho agreed. That's a good idea. After all, we're all living people. We can't just go to the hell of Huang Quan to investigate. That's right. We need to know exactly what happened, and Huang Quan saying so. Gu Qingshan took out her hollow brain to contact the president. An hour later, several hundred shuttles arrived at this part of the ocean. Several high-ranking officers came to Gu Qingshan and Jang Young-ho's shuttle. Mr. Gu, how may I be of service? One of the officers asked. The series of events that had happened recently had already spread throughout the Federation. Everyone knew that Mr. Gu was one of the top scientists in the world, and a powerful professionist. Are we going to attack the sea monsters? Another officer asked. No, you can just form a formation behind my shuttle. Display our power? A colonel asked in confusion. Can the sea monsters understand that? Our target isn't the sea monsters, but someone even stronger than them. Please arrange your tactics. You don't need to act. The officers exchanged glances. Don't need to act? Then what are we here for? Gu Qingshan smiled and explained. With you here, we'll have a lot of manpower, so what I need now is something that can convince it. The officers had no choice but to return to their small-sized interstellar warships. Following Black Cat's directions, several hundred small-sized interstellar warships flew in formation until they reached the space above the frozen ocean. How is it, baby? Jang Young-ho held Black Cat in his hand and gently asked. Meow, Black Cat answered. Jang Young-ho looked at Gu Qingshan and said, It said it's here, it's right below us. Very well, have everyone spread out in an orderly fashion and surround this part of the ocean, Gu Qingshan ordered. Yes, sir, Impartial Goddess replied. On the screen, all the small-sized interstellar warships had formed a neat circle, silently surrounding the frozen ocean below. In the frozen ocean, a few ignorant giant sea monsters looked up at the numerous interstellar warships in the sky and roared in anger. The battleship was high up in the sky, so they were unable to attack. Gu Qingshan patted Jang Young-ho's shoulder and walked to the door of the shuttle. I'll go find him. You're in charge of commanding. Keep in contact with me at all times, Gu Qingshan said. The door opened. Gu Qingshan jumped out of the shuttle and formed a hand seal. The earth sword turned into a streak of light and flashed away. 5 dazzling streaks of light appeared in the air, passing through a sea beast and landing on the icy surface. The roars of the sea beast stopped abruptly. Its huge body turned into minced meat and fell into the sea along with the cracked ice. A blood-red hole appeared on the snow-white ice. The ice hole did not exist for long. It froze up again at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, Gu Qingshan was standing in the air, her sword dancing back and forth, unceasingly killing the sea beasts. There were many sea beasts in the surroundings. Once they discovered Gu Qingshan's presence, they all pounced on him, wanting to eat him. Wherever the earth sword went, nothing could stop it. Attention, everyone! Attention, everyone! The monster has appeared. Jang Young-ho spoke into the intercom. The captains of the several hundred small-sized interstellar warships all showed cautious expressions. Turn on the 360-degree battle screen, they all ordered. Everyone solemnly observed their surroundings. Remember this monster well. Keep your distance from it from now on, lest you get accidentally injured. Jang Young-ho spoke very seriously. Mr. Zhang, which monster are you talking about? A military officer asked in confusion. Gu Qingshan. Everyone looked back, only to see Gu Qingshan standing in the air, a streak of light dancing around him, occasionally flying out to kill the sea beasts. That streak of light was extremely powerful, easily piercing a hole through the sea beast bodies. There was nothing that could stop that streak of light. One of the sea beasts roared, wanting to kill this human. But Gu Qingshan's body lightly shook as he took to the air. Sea beasts can't fly. As the streak of light flashed, the sea beast was turned into a giant corpse. In just a few moments, all the sea beasts in this area were cleaned up by him alone. Only one was left. This was a giant monster with the head of an octopus and the body of a human. It managed to dodge many of Gu Qingshan's attacks. Black Cloak Skeleton, I know it's you. There's something I want to ask you, Gu Qingshan said. The giant sea beast floated on the water, then suddenly spoke in a low human voice. I won't answer any of your questions, so this sea beast was the Black Cloak Skeleton. It was trying to hide inside a sea beast body. Without a doubt, the sea beasts were hiding deep in the ocean, hiding from human eyes. If it did something inside the sea beast, humans wouldn't be able to notice it at all. Gu Qingshan asked, "Can I even talk?" The octopus sea beast didn't answer. It broke through a thin layer of floating ice, dived back into the water, and swam towards the depths of the ocean. The ocean was the sea beast's territory. If Gu Qingshan dared to dive into the depths of the ocean and fight it, it would be more than happy to do so. No matter how powerful the other party was, it wouldn't be able to exert its full strength at a depth of several 10,000 meters. With that in mind, the Black Cloak Skeleton sped up. Gu Qingshan sighed and was about to do something. Suddenly, a streak of light flew up from the water and hovered next to Gu Qingshan. The Chao-Yin sword. The hilt of the Chao-Yin sword was slowly moving upwards, as if telling Gu Qingshan to hold it. Gu Qingshan held it in his hand. Without waiting for the war god Yui to tell her, Gu Qingshan infused soul points into the sword. After using it several times, Gu Qingshan could already sense the existence of soul points. This was similar to spirit energy. The more you use it, the more experience you'll gain. Receiving soul points, the Chao-Yin sword began to give off a faint glow. The sound of the waves could be heard from the sword. The Fortune Wu World characters once again appeared on the sword. Even the sea of bitterness can be passed. Gu Qingshan suddenly realized something. "Open," he muttered. The Chao-Yin sword shook. The sea parted in front of Gu Qingshan at an extreme speed. The sea beast that the Black Cloak Skeleton had taken over was planning to dive as fast as it could. A second later, all the water around the sea beast disappeared. Above its head, around its body, below its feet, not a single drop of water remained within a 10-meter radius of the sea beast. The sea beast was shocked and hurriedly leapt towards the ocean a few meters away. But wherever it went, the water quickly moved away, not letting it touch a single drop of water. Without the support of the water, there was only a bottomless abyss below. The sea beast uttered a human-like scream as it fell down into the abyss. Seeing this, all the Federation officers were shocked. Zhang Youngho sighed and spoke into his walkie-talkie. "This isn't a monster. I repeat, this isn't a monster. This is God at this moment." Gu Qingshan finally understood what the Chao-Yin sword's thaumaturgy meant. Any problem caused by water can be easily solved by the Chao-Yin sword. This is what it means to be able to cross even a sea of suffering. No wonder the divinities of Shun Wu World forged this sword to suppress the four seas. Gu Qingshan looked at the war god Yui. His soul points were being consumed at a rate of 10 per second. Gu Qingshan held the Chao-Yin sword tightly and lightly swung. Boom! The water began to close up. The water around the octopus sea beast once again surrounded it, slowing down its descent. Then a huge force lifted the ocean beast and sent it flying high into the air. Bam! A dull thud. The sea beast fell to the surface, but didn't fall in. The ocean rejected it. "Now we can talk," Gu Qingshan said. The sea beast glared at him angrily. All of a sudden, a black shadow flew out from the sea beast's body, turning into the Black Cloaked Skeleton. The Black Cloaked Skeleton stood in the air, wielding a sword made of ice in his hand, as killing intent surged from his body. Gu Qingshan didn't mind and continued. "As the first sovereign of the frozen hell to descend upon the human realm, I'm guessing you must have paid a heavy price. What exactly are you trying to say?" The Black Cloaked Skeleton couldn't help but ask when he was exposed. For such a terrifying monster to appear on the sea beast's body, the officers surrounding the area were shocked. Jang Young-ho spoke into his walkie-talkie with a serious expression. Stay calm. Everyone, watch your weapons, don't misfire. Yes, sir. The officers all replied. In the night sky, a conversation regarding the fate of humanity as a whole was being held. Gu Qin-shan spoke. I have to say, whenever you fall asleep, I'll always be able to find you just like today. And then? The black, cloaked skeleton asked. You can look around, Gu Qin-shan told him. The black, cloaked skeleton looked up and observed his surroundings. High up in the sky, countless interstellar warships had surrounded this area. So you're able to mobilize the power of an entire country just to deal with me? The black, cloaked skeleton asked. In certain situations, no matter how strong an individual is, it still wouldn't be as effective as the cooperation of countless people. As a former sovereign, the black cloaked skeleton understood very well just how terrifying a country can be when fully mobilized. And now, the entire country is fighting just to deal with me. If that's the case, I won't be able to avoid it. I won't even be able to find a safe place to sleep. The black cloaked skeleton roared. What the hell? So many monsters are about to come out. Why do you have to deal with me alone? That's right, I have to deal with you specifically, Gu Qin-shan nodded. If you refuse to answer a few of my questions, I'll use the entire country's power to hunt you down, forcing you to fall into slumber again and again. I know you want to investigate the matter of Huang Quan, but this won't benefit either you or me. The black cloaked skeleton spoke full of hatred. He seemed to be afraid to talk about this. Gu Qin-shan didn't back down. I don't need any benefits. I just want to know what happened to Huang Quan. No. I can't tell you that, the black cloaked skeleton said. You won't tell me? That's fine. I'll continue to hunt you down. Even when the other powerful dead from the frozen hell descend, I guarantee I'll continue to hunt you down. Gu Qin-shan looked at him and muttered, until humanity goes extinct. You madman, why do you have to keep staring at me? The black cloaked skeleton roared hysterically. If that's the case, I'll be completely held back. At that point, I can only watch as the other monsters obtain more and more souls from the human realm, becoming stronger and stronger. I'll fall into slumber again and again, never getting the chance to grow stronger. If those old enemies of mine find out about my current situation, they'll probably wake up laughing in the middle of the night. Maybe one day, I won't even be fit to carry their shoes. I'll become their slave. Gu Qin-shan shrugged and smiled. This is all because you didn't want to answer a few small questions. In truth, the questions I prepared are all very simple. You don't need to worry, those aren't small questions. They're matters that can't be touched. The black cloaked skeleton's tone was solemn and serious. Gu Qin-shan replied, No. I only need to know a bit of information. I promise I won't trouble you. As long as you answer my questions, I'll personally send you to sleep. I promise I won't bother you again. Gu Qin-shan took out a box of cigars and tossed it to him. This is a rare item. I know you like it. Come, smoke this cigar while you tell me about Huang Quan. Then happily go to sleep. The black cloaked skeleton looked at the box of cigars in front of him. With his eyesight, he could tell the quality of a cigar at a glance. This brand of cigar is truly the best in the world. I used to love this brand the most. This brat is quite considerate. I only smoked half a cigar in front of him, and he already recognized the brand. That's not the main point. The black cloaked skeleton's body trembled, finally unable to hold back his emotions. He suddenly looked up to the sky and roared, his voice echoing everywhere. Chapter 403. Hundreds of small-sized interstellar warships filled the sky. The seawater was flowing below, refusing to let him in. That disgusting living person was standing in the air, facing him. After so many years, the black cloaked skeleton finally understood what it meant to be cornered. After breathing heavily for a while, he suddenly shouted, Ask. Scram if you're done. That's right, I don't want to keep chasing after you either. It's best if we don't meet again, Gu Qin-shan smiled. This sentence calmed the black cloaked skeleton's emotions a little more. He continued, That better be the case. I don't want to see you ever again. Gu Qin-shan immediately asked the question that he's been thinking about for a long time now. In the past life, the frozen hell only lasted for half a day before the human realm was completely destroyed. No one knows what else would happen in Huang Quan if there's still time. In this life, the frozen hell is about to descend. Then, what else will happen in the future? Gu Shan has a bad feeling about this. If something really does happen to Huang Quan, then what will descend upon the human realm won't just be a single hell. Besides the frozen hell, there should be other hells in Huang Quan, right? He asked. Of course, Huang Quan has many layers of hell, the black cloaked skeleton answered. It answered this question without any hesitation. Gu Shan's heart sank. He calmed himself down and asked again, after the frozen hell, will there be other hells that descend upon the human realm? The black cloaked skeleton mocked. There are many layers of hell. I'm only a dead person. How could I travel between hells as I please? I'll tell you the truth, I don't know about the other hells either. Gu Shan had a clue. What exactly happened in Huang Quan? He asked. The black cloaked skeleton answered in irritation. I can't tell you about Huang Quan. Is that so? Then just wait for my endless pursuit, Gu Shan replied. The black cloaked skeleton roared. You can't kill me. I'll just follow you and send you to sleep again and again, Gu Shan casually replied. If you ask about anything else, we can talk about it. The only thing you can't say is about the Yellow Springs. The black cloaked skeleton took a step back. You can't tell me the truth. Why is that? Gu Shan sensed the other party's determination, so she decided to change her approach. All right, I'm not going to ask Yomi. I'm going to ask you why you can't tell me the truth. Because the moment I say it, I'll be discovered immediately. There was no human expression on the face of the black-robed skeleton, but Gu Shan felt the fear in its words. Speaking of this topic, it began to feel afraid. What are you afraid of? The dead won't die, so what's there to be afraid of? Gu Shan said thoughtfully. He suddenly froze and asked, Isn't that so? If you tell me about Huang Quan, you might be done for. The black cloaked skeleton quickly added, completely finished. No matter who it is, no matter how powerful they are, as long as they dare to mention this matter, they will truly, truly disappear. Gu Shan remained silent. Why does this sound so familiar? A scene appeared in Gu Shan's mind. The bronze pillar. Who are you? Gu Shan asked. The giant corpse answered. It's best if you don't know. As soon as I say my name, both you and I will be discovered then. Another scene appeared. In front of the mountaintop mansion. I once hid in the space vortex for 10,000 years, but I can't tell anyone else about this. Otherwise a divinity might sense it, the earth sword spoke in a resounding voice. Gu Shan slowly thought about it. After a while, he looked at the black cloaked skeleton and asked, Are you afraid of the divinities? The black cloaked skeleton glanced at Gu Shan in surprise and remained silent. Its two empty eye sockets stared straight at Gu Shan without saying a word. Not saying anything was a tacit agreement. His guess was correct. He didn't say anything because he was afraid of the divinities. Gu Shan asked in confusion, Aren't the divinities in charge of the hell of Huang Quan, responsible for settling down the dead? The black-cloaked skeleton still didn't say anything, but he looked at Gu Shan and briefly laughed. This laugh contained a deep sense of sorrow and sarcasm. Gu Shan understood what he meant and said, From how you look, I'm guessing that's not what the divinities do. The black-cloaked skeleton lowered his head and said nothing. Tacit agreement. Another tacit agreement. Gu Shan understood and began to silently think. Huang Quan. Divinities, first of all, there must be something wrong with Huang Quan. Secondly, the divinities aren't actually responsible for managing living beings, but what exactly the divinities do is still unknown. Thirdly, because the black-cloaked skeleton was afraid of the divinities, he didn't say a single word. Lastly, the dead can resurrect infinitely in hell to bear the pain of their sins. The dead can't die a second time. Then, what are the dead afraid of? If that's the case, then the divinities aren't responsible for settling down the dead. Gu Shan muttered to himself. But the divinities make you afraid. For a once invincible human like you to feel fear. Then the divinities must be... Stop. Stop right now. Don't say anything else. The black-cloaked skeleton roared. Gu Shan was stunned. The black-cloaked skeleton was breathing heavily. If you look closely, you'll see that its entire body was shaking. Because of fear, it couldn't suppress its body's instincts. The black-cloaked skeleton shook his head. "You are a terrifying living being. I'd rather fall into slumber again, or even be hunted down by you, than to continue talking to you. Why not?" Gu Qing-shan asked. "It's too dangerous. Too dangerous. Do you understand?" The black-cloaked skeleton's tone contained a sense of unbearable fear. It muttered, "I was wrong this time. I shouldn't have thought of a way to descend into the human realm ahead of time. I should have waited for the frozen hell to fully appear before coming out." It reached its gigantic hand out to grab its own neck. "You're going back already?" Gu Qing-shan tried to persuade it to stay. "How about we talk a bit more?" "Really, I still have a few questions." The black-cloaked skeleton rudely cut him off and roared, "No, I don't want to talk to you. Not a single word. Not a single expression." It furiously roared. "A monster like you, when a human realm turns into hell, you won't even have the chance to enter hell." Saying so, the black-cloaked skeleton twisted off its own head. It died. It once again fell into a deathly slumber. "Ran away," Gu Qing-shan muttered. He swung the Chao-yin sword. The ocean returned to its calm state. But Gu Qing-shan wasn't calm at all. "When a human realm turns into hell, you won't even have the chance to enter hell." This statement contained a deep sense of fear and panic. What kind of situation could cause a ruler of the human realm for countless years, a ruler of hell, to show such emotions? The black-cloaked skeleton would rather fall into slumber than continue talking. As a dead person, what is he afraid of? Can a divinity kill a dead person? Gu Qing-shan had a few guesses, but couldn't confirm the truth. There's too little information, pitifully little. Gu Qing-shan closed her eyes and thought for a bit. Perhaps everything is more terrifying than I thought. Chapter 404. I'm probably about to die. After writing this, Su Share's pen lightly stopped. The faint light from the lantern illuminated the white wall. A thumb-sized hole slowly appeared on the wall. A ring peeked out from it, carefully observing its surroundings. After confirming that everything was fine, the ring used some kind of method to seal the hole behind it. When the wall returned to white, the ring jumped down. It bounced a bit on the table, adjusted its balance, and stood still. "What's the situation?" Su Share asked in a low voice. The ring replied in a low voice, "They're not here. I've succeeded. Well done. Thank you very much. Can you make it in time?" The ring asked. Su Share clasped her hands together and prayed. "I hope I can make it in time." The sound of knocking came from the outside. The ring didn't say anything. Su Share bit her lip and closed the diary. She took a deep breath to calm herself down. "What is it?" she asked. From a thin door, a female voice came. "Professor Ayase wants you to meet her in 1 hour." "Got it. I'll be right there." The sound of footsteps slowly went away from the door, followed by a small conversation. "What a lucky girl." "That's right. Who knows why Professor Ayase likes her so much? Humph. It's just that she made it to the Isle alive. She's not bad looking, but she's too good at flattering the professor. This kind of person is the most disgusting." The voices slowly went away. Su Share held the diary close to her chest, stunned for a few moments. "Although there's still 1 hour left to reach Professor Ayase, I have to leave right now. I don't have much time." Su Share couldn't help but tidy herself up and prepare to leave. "I'm a newcomer who can't even be considered a student, yet I'm being summoned by a powerful professor. I have to hurry. If I'm late, something might happen." But Su Share still took a bit more time to open the diary and wrote a second sentence. "I hope I can make it in time." Closing the diary, Su Share stood up and left. "Your situation is too dangerous. Take me with you." The ring suddenly spoke up. Su Share thought about it and picked up the ring solemnly. This ring was so special that if Professor Ayase saw it, she might want to go over. Tutor Ayase always had a way to find out what she had on her. Fortunately, she was alert and hid the booklet in advance. But this ring, can you turn into a hairband, the most common, ordinary hairband? She asked. Sure. As the ring spoke, it turned into a black hairband. Su Share picked it up and tested it. Good elasticity. She tied her hair into a ponytail with a nano ring. Let's go. She took a deep breath and took one last look at her resting room. There was only enough room for a single bed and a small table. In all her years of life, Sue Cher had never lived in such a shabby place. However, there was not the slightest bit of disgust in her eyes. Instead, they were filled with nostalgia. This was her own little space. There would be no disputes, no slander, no framing. No one would come in and disturb her. Here, she could breathe a little. After leaving this place, I don't know if I'll ever be able to return. Sue Cher sighed and slowly closed the door. Outside the room, it was a completely different scene. The sky was dark and gloomy. Row after row of low and shabby single-story houses were built. This was where preparatory students, maids, coachmen, cooks, night watchmen, and so on lived. Only after becoming an official student could they leave this place. Sue Cher walked along the gravel road, heading further away. Her footsteps were quick. Past a fountain the size of a football field, several dozen-meter-tall statues, up a marble staircase, she arrived at the edge of a cliff. A torch flew by itself and landed in Sue Cher's hand. Sue Cher looked down. A narrow staircase silently appeared. Aside from the staircase, there was only a bottomless abyss. Walking on this path, you can't look back, you can't look down, you can't stay still for too long. You can only move forward and forward. Anyone who violates this rule will be devoured by the monster in the fog and disappear from this world. Sue Cher took a deep breath and took a step forward. A new staircase appeared under her feet. As she moved forward, the staircase behind her disappeared. Step by step, Sue Cher walked towards the sky, walking through the fog that shrouded everything. She silently held onto the torch. The light of the torch couldn't penetrate the fog around her to let her see her current situation. It was only used for warmth. The temperature inside the fog was enough to freeze a person to death in an instant, but with this torch, the cold air would automatically disperse. The staircase continued upwards. The gray fog had completely enveloped the entire world. In Sue Cher's vision, she couldn't see anything but the fog. At some point, she felt a bit scared, because this was very similar to her own situation. Abandoning her fate, abandoning her ugly family, she came here in search of a new life. But there were still quite a few people in front of the fog that wanted to take her life. Shadows lingered around her, lingering. If she wasn't careful, she'd be smashed to pieces. This path was too hard to walk. Sue Cher stopped and stood in the fog. Her eyes were filled with exhaustion. A few moments later, the fog in the distance began to surge, as if something gigantic was approaching. Sue Cher was stunned for a few moments, then suddenly rubbed her head. She started walking again. She gathered her courage and continued to walk through the fog. Those unknown things noticed her movement, observed her for a bit, then slowly retreated. Sue Cher lightly breathed out. That was close. She tried her best to regain her composure and quickly walked towards the depths of the sky. A few dozen minutes later, finally, at a certain point, the torch in her hand moved. Sue Cher stopped and let go of the torch. The torch flew out and disappeared into the fog. Crack! The torch seemed to have gotten stuck on some sort of mechanism. The rumbling sound of the mechanism continued for a while. The fog in front of Sue Cher was torn open. Sue Cher could clearly see the corridor on the other side. This wasn't the main entrance, but a hidden entrance. Sue Cher walked in. As soon as she walked in, the wall behind her closed up. Sue Cher lowered her head, put on her veil, and walked along the corridor towards her destination. She put on the hood behind her as well. To prevent official students from seeing her face, this was the most basic form of protection. The last time she came here, an official student saw her face and tried to talk to her. At that time, the school bell rang. That student couldn't help but temporarily stop, ask someone else for her name, then left begrudgingly. Fortunately, otherwise, Sue Cher would have to use all her strength to kill him or herself. Avoiding the pedestrians, Sue Cher quickly walked along the side of the road. After what felt like an entire century, Sue Cher finally sighed in relief. At the end of the road, a large square appeared in front of her. Many strange-looking objects were silently hovering in the air. Scrolls, cards, hourglasses, clothes, black books, unknown animal limbs, tree branches floating in the air. Each of these objects represented their owner's domain of power. There were two objects that looked like stars in the sky, standing in the middle of the square. A giant tooth that exudes a vicious aura. It was a scroll glowing with a bloody light. They seemed to be the masters of this place, occupying the center of the square. These were the Dean and the Sentinel's items. If a student wants to find them, they only need to touch these two items to reach their location. Soucher retracted her gaze and looked for her target among the many objects. Very quickly, she saw a giant card that was as tall as two people. On the card, a snake-haired woman holding a large shield stood on a winding mountain road. Noticing Soucher's gaze, the snake-haired woman immediately looked at her. Soucher stepped forward, respectfully bowed to the snake-haired woman, and said, "I'm here to see Gu Haise." The snake-haired woman nodded and walked away. She stepped aside. Soucher walked into the card. Passing by the snake-haired woman, Soucher continued along the winding mountain road. A few minutes later, Soucher reached the top of the mountain. At the top of the mountain, a black-robed woman stood with her back to her, standing at the edge of the cliff. A drawing board was silently floating in front of the black-robed woman. The black-robed woman looked at the wilderness outside the mountain, holding a brush in her hand, drawing lines and shadows on the board. The boundless dark mist embraced her, making it impossible to see her figure and appearance clearly. But the pair of faintly discernible white wings on her back couldn't be hidden even by the black fog. A dazzling halo floated above her head, attracting everyone's attention. She was like a holy angel in the legends. "Greetings, Guru Isa," Soucher bowed. The black-robed woman didn't turn around, still facing the desolate wilderness, seriously drawing a picture. Since she didn't say anything, Soucher didn't dare to say anything else. After a while, the black-robed woman stopped her brush and asked, "Tomorrow is the official trial. Are you confident you can pass?" "I'm not, but I'll try," Soucher answered truthfully. "If you don't have confidence, you'll die if you try, but I still want to try." The black-robed woman looked at the faraway scenery, picked up her brush, and began to draw again. She suddenly said, "From now on, you'll be my disciple." Soucher fell silent and didn't reply. Becoming someone else's disciple isn't necessarily a good thing. Gurus have the right to decide the life and death of their disciple. On the other hand, a disciple doesn't belong to any guru, so they can't be easily killed. Soucher is a disciple. Her current identity is the last layer of protection she has. Once she becomes her disciple, no one will care about her life or death anymore. The black-robed woman waited for a while, then suddenly laughed. "You managed to reach Fog all alive, so you look down on me, a guru who drifted here after dying?" The black fog around her body began to surge. Soucher hurriedly replied, "I wouldn't dare. That's not the case. She isn't even a disciple. If she looks down on the guru, the other party will have the right to kill her. No one will be able to save her." "Then why?" the black-robed woman asked. "I want to think about it a bit more," Soucher said. "Think about it? What else is there to think about?" the black-robed woman said. She impatiently spoke. "I'll give you one last minute. If you still don't want to, even if I'll be punished by my superiors, I'll still kill you right now." Following that, the veil between the two of them was finally lifted. "That's right. I want to kill you. What can you do?" Saying so, the black-robed woman continued to draw with her back to Soucher. Killing people seemed to be an insignificant thing to him. She didn't even bother to turn around to look at Soucher. Soucher clenched her fist. "Faster. A bit faster. Is it still not done? Is it too late?" The only thing left on the mountain was the cold wind. 1 minute will be gone very quickly. Soucher silently lowered her head. "Seems like I won't make it in time." She was a bit desperate. Suddenly, she felt a bit of heat coming from her hair. This was the heat emitted by the precision nano ring's high-speed calculations. Inside the nano ring's tiny AI, the AI had made over 100,000 calculations based on Soucher's current situation. Time error maximized. The corresponding preparations couldn't be made in time. Based on the current situation, Reconsider. Conclusion. Sue Cher has a high chance of death. Reconsider countermeasures to save Sue Cher's life. Generate strategy. According to the known Fog-All rules and regulations, combined with the current situation, choose strategy number 793. Begin assembling the nano voice generator. Loading Sue Cher's voice. Preparing to speak in place of Sue Cher. Ready to speak. Sue Cher's hair. Scattered. The hairband turned into a single strand of hair, silently moving through Sue Cher's hair. Even though the black-robed woman's back was facing Sue Cher, this strand of hair was still very cautious. Its diameter was only half of a normal hair. It adjusted its color to match Sue Cher's skin color. Mimicking the natural state of hair falling off, it softly landed on the corner of Sue Cher's mouth. Sue Cher understood and opened her mouth. The strand of hair disappeared. "Time's up. State your decision," the black-robed woman spoke. Her voice carried faint, killing intent. "Either you die now, or you die after the trial and become my disciple. If you choose the latter, you'll be able to live a bit longer." Her tone suddenly became gentle. "Sue Cher, do you want to become my disciple?" A despairing voice came from behind her. "I've decided to become your disciple." As soon as she said that, a card suddenly appeared in front of the black-robed woman. With a whoosh, the card was burned to ashes. The black-robed woman silently smiled. She muttered, "All right, there's a card to bear witness to this moment. Once you pass the trial, you'll be my disciple." At this moment, the black-robed woman was in a very good mood. After the trial, the two of them will officially establish their master-disciple relationship. At that time, this girl's life and death will be in my hands. I've finally caught her. She's my only competitor. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.